This is a really important episode, though. It's gonna be the last episode of Toast and Roast where I have hair.
Oh yeah, when are you shaving
Uh,
it this weekend or?
yeah, because I've been enduring some embarrassing male pattern baldness, just causing a little, little donut in the middle there that I never knew I had until I was surrounded by people insensitive enough to point it out, aka children. I never would have known
I thought you were going to say
otherwise.
us.
Well, I don't think have you guys. I don't think you guys have ever been so bold as to make fun of Mount Tommy head before.
Yeah, I mean the only thing I think we've like done some of the baloney patch jokes, but
Anyway, I'm gonna age gracefully and shave, and since I already have the slight goatee going, I'm kind of hoping I give David Cross in Alvin and the Chipmunks.
oh, yeah,
Well,
I
you
mean
gotta-
it's just kind of the natural progression of the Sherman evolution, I'd say.
Yeah, you one day.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I think that the Alvin and the Chipmunks thing you're gonna find is actually a look into your future. It's more of a documentary, really.
Like I'm gonna be like after the Chipmunks.
I mean, you
Yeah.
aren't already?
I do, I'm getting nearer to buying a hamster for the first time. I am growing. I'd like to have a pet of some kind, and I think Will and I have discussed this. I'd like to have a pet of some kind, and I like hamsters a lot. In fact, it's germane to something I talk about later in this episode that I've noted. Um, but hamsters are so fragile, and they live to be like a second old, and I think it'd be kind of upsetting to have such a distinctly finite pet. I'm trying to make up my mind about that.
Hey, you'd always get a
Finite
chinchilla.
pet.
What'd you say? Yeah.
A finite pet. I'm just like going over that in my head because it sounds kind of fucked up, but I can't tell if it is.
Like a rock isn't finite.
Well, then
Yeah, but
isn't
rocks
every
also
pet
aren't
finite?
alive.
I mean, not to the point that not only do hamsters have short lifespans, but every like hamster care video I find online is like, if your hamster is doing this peculiar habit, it is losing its goddamn mind, and you should put it out of its fucking misery.
Oh Jesus
Throw it
Christ!
in a sock and start slamming it around your house, and
Oh my god!
Like an Italian Spider-Man. Although that was a mouse.
The only animal I remember in that movie is the pinguini.
Well, there was also
Pinguini.
the crocodilo.
Cocodrilo.
Well, I mean, you have kind of a head start already because I think just like what's his name, Ian Hawke or whatever from Alvin and the Chipmunks, just like him, you are weirdly horny for the Chipettes.
That's true,
Shut
yeah.
the fuck up. I do not want that on the record. Not that it's true. It's not true.
Oh wait,
Dad is
Tommy, there was
joking.
that one time in middle school when you said, "Hey, my name is Tommy Pickles," and oh shit, I shouldn't have said your last name.
I can bleep it. I
I'm
can.
just giving you a lot of editing work for this episode. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, long
Just
story
like-
short, the first thing Tommy ever said to me was that he had a crush on the Chipettes.
It's not even true
So what was the first thing you said to me?
that I have a crush on the Nitro Squad.
Hey, it didn't even exist back then.
That might be worse.
That's not true. They are characters from the PS1 original Crash Team Racing that were remastered and updated into racers for Nitro Fueled. Shows how much you fucking listen to me when I'm talking about my interests.
I mean, Tommy, I don't think you've ever mentioned like the origins of the Nitro Squad.
well, maybe you should have asked.
Okay, hey Tommy, what are the origins of the Nitro Squad?
I'm glad you
Oh
asked.
wait,
Will.
I
The
don't
Nitro-
care. You want to fuck the Chipettes?
Now you have to decide which is more embarrassing, that you want to fuck the Nitro Squad or the Chipettes. So which one are you editing out?
Well, the Chipettes are children, so on top of being furry, that's like highly immoral. The Nitro Squad are furries, but they're like they're perfectly, autonomous, ostensibly adults.
I've got 6 words for you, Tommy. You know what they are?
Yeah.
Jesus, Tommy, you are a freak.
Glad I'm leaving my job after this episode. Rev up those fryers and fill those champagne glasses to the tippy top. It's West Coast Toast and Roast with Tommy, Will, and Dav. Welcome back to West Coast Toast and Roast. I'm leaving my job, and I'm Tommy.
I am the person who knows that Tommy has a crush on the Chipettes, and I'm Will.
And I'm staying at my job so I can keep paying for insulin. I'm Dav.
The Chipettes bit would work like 20% more if the lost episode wasn't the one where we talked about Chipmunk Adventure like a year ago.
Oh, Jesus. Chipmunk
'Cause we
Adventure
have
is
to-
still so fucking surreal.
We have to have litigated that the snakes want to fuck the Chipettes, right?
Oh, I don't know you wanted to be called the Snakes now, Tommy.
Will, I swear to God.
Oh, come on, that was a good one.
Look, I know.
Fucking Will over.
I know, like, swallowing people whole is synonymous with sex in your world, but I don't think that necessarily means the snakes wanted to fuck the Chipettes.
No, you're forgetting that they sang like a sultry song to like make them fall in love with them. They initially wanted to eat them.
It
the
seems more like the Chipettes wanted to fuck the snakes.
We are opening fucking layers. But it somehow distracted the snakes into leaving them alone because they like were enamored with them. Because they sing a song that I'm not exaggerating called "What Can I Do to Get Lucky with You?"
Well, maybe getting lucky is the same definition you have, where they want to get swallowed whole.
All right, you know what? We're introducing the new segment. I'm sick of the worst podcast ever. Fucking. You know, I have like a weird. I wonder if I have OCD sometimes, genuinely, because I make choices that I'm not entirely sure about and think to myself, well, let's see how karma balances me out. If this is a good podcast, I've made a good choice. If it's not such a good podcast, I've made a poor choice. I am like reassessing my entire life after hearing how you two treat me right now.
Big episode 20, let's go.
The new segment. New segment is called kind of vaguely backdoor piloted in the previous episode. It is trailer life or death, aka coming attractions. So sometimes there's fun random trailers that don't like a trailer doesn't always fit into the news section. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to justify it all the time. So I thought now and then I'll compile a few kind of random trailers to give our thoughts on. So to help make it easier to narrow down, only full trailers, not teasers. So FNAF came out the FNAF teaser came out this week, but we can have opinions. We cannot declare life or death yet.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so that'll be when the full trailer comes that we truly judge it. You all got a chance to watch the trailers I dropped in our DM, yes?
Yeah.
Wonderful. The first one on the guillotine to be determined for life or death is Flamin' Hot. This is a Hulu original film directed by Eva Longoria in ostensibly her directorial debut, a biopic about the creator of Flamin' Hot Cheetos, who was, as the story goes, a custodian who used his own culinary hobbyist skills to create the flavor we all love. I don't personally, but you know.
But yeah, because mayo is too spicy for you.
That's simply not true.
God, this is just the kind of life or death for Tommy episode.
We've already had we've already litigated that I look like Berry Boy and you guys fucking treat me like Berry Boy.
Anyways, I would personally say death, but only because I don't really love biopics, and it just kind of seems like every generic biopic. So
it's like the 5th annoying biopic that's coming out this year.
Yeah, pretty much. So on the will meter, it gets a death.
Okay, well, on the dev meter, it also gets a death, mostly because I kind of looked into this, and the background is very up in the air as to whether or not this story, like, at its core is true at all. but
Yeah.
it does have the biopic issue of like taking real life events and trying to turn them into this big, important, dramatic, just point in time that people want to be spoon fed. And I really don't like that. So death from me.
I was gonna drop that bomb that it seems widely reported that the whole story is made up, actually.
Oh, so this is like the fucking Weird the Al Yankovic story is a more accurate biopic.
So apparently the person of interest of this biopic has ostensibly fabricated the story and told it as if it is his own, and nobody has ever, and like he would do tours and write books and say, I was a janitor and I made Flamin' Hot Cheetos and so can you. And everyone who could have been involved in that time period with that company no one has been able to corroborate his anecdotes.
Yep.
They always just say, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
It's just a long Cheetos commercial, so if you want to sit for a feature-length commercial for junk food, then that is your prerogative.
By all means. Gosh, I tried, I was like, Will, you and I were like one second generation too late for Takis, you know?
Oh yeah.
I think we were seniors in high school when we were like, why is everyone eating Takis? And then we went to college and had a whole nother set of problems. Then we got into teaching. Are Takis like as big a linchpin of culture for your students as they are of mine?
Oh yeah. No, they're obsessed.
It's like water and Mad Max. They like barter with Takis. It's the only thing on their mind. And I did not try a Taki for the first time until this year. Because I mentioned I hadn't had a Taki, and a student gave me one. I don't hate it.
I haven't tried them yet. I mean, Flamin' Hot Cheetos were big when I was in like middle school, high school, but I still don't want to watch a movie about them. Like they're fine. They taste all right, I guess.
What if the movie is Chester Cheetah and like
it's like a Kangaroo Jack type thing?
Yeah.
No, I still that might almost be worse. I mean, the fact that it's just explicit branding would be pretty. That would leave a bad taste in my mouth.
A Kangaroo Jack. You guys were you guys catfished by that movie the way I was?
Oh yeah, no, I thought it was a talking animal movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was like way too young to even really give a shit. I watched it when I was like 5, and I don't remember having any opinion on it.
I don't think it was that, and like Snow Dogs were like within a year of each other, and it was this weird era of movies just being sold as about talking animals when they absolutely are not.
Snow Dogs I did get debated by Snow Dogs. I was really disappointed in that.
Who the fuck, like Cuba Gooding Jr. is a dentist or something?
It's a really boring movie.
He's like mad that his father is white, and as a little kid in the theater, I'm like, why is he mad about that? So I think we all agree death to Flamin' Hot, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, what's a good... I guess maybe I'll put the fatality sound effect in for when we declare death.
Fatality.
Good idea.
Yeah, there we go. Death. Maybe if we decide life, I put like, I don't know, an HP up sound effect that we like. I'll figure something out. It'll be cute.
Something from Final Fantasy or something.
Oh, yeah, that'd be pretty good. Next, a game trailer. We have Double Dragon Gaiden. This is the third revival of Double Dragon within this generation, but it's the first one that does not look like ass to me. We had Double Dragon 4 and Double Dragon Neon, and they both suck a big one. This one actually looks pretty fucking cool, kind of more in the same vein of River City Girls. Developed by Modus Games and Secret Base. They have a lot of experience with like smaller indie beat 'em ups. And I give this one a hearty life, because we're in kind of a renaissance of revamping beat 'em ups with River City and Battletoads and all that fun stuff, Ninja Turtles. So I'm happy that we actually, that arguably the first beat 'em up, that being Double Dragon, is finally got like some actual skin in the game.
Yeah, I give it a cautious life.
Really?
Because I think it could definitely be like just kind of a River City Girls Part 2 in both like humor and design, but like the new characters look awesome.
I think I'm gonna have to go against the grain and give this one a light death.
Really?
Mostly because the sprite work really puts me off. Something about it just does not click with me. And I'm glad this series is looking like it's gonna have a comeback for like fans of it, but I think like River City Girls kind of stands apart in the fact that its sprite work is really good in my opinion, and this one just does not look all that great to me.
You are not wrong that it's kind of a step behind in that regard. It goes for a very chibi look.
It feels kind of cheap. I don't know.
I guess it gives Scott Pilgrim more than it gives River City, which take that as you will.
But even Scott Pilgrim I really like because it captures the comics art style pretty well.
Yeah. Fuck, I don't know what to do if we don't all necessarily agree. I didn't count on it.
Well, it's 2 lives to a death, so I'd say that probably outweighs it to a life.
It is uneven. It is uneven. That is a good thing. It won't be a tie. Okay, life.
I think you should have like different sound effects for if it's unanimous versus if it's mixed at all.
Oh yeah, so it should be like the flawless victory.
I like that. We base it all around Mortal Kombat, which like will be germane as we see coming up. Yeah, okay. Well, ostensible cautious life for Double Dragon Gaiden. I don't see the writing as taking like necessarily the same humor as River City, but I do, I read the concern that they're mini. I'm a little bummed we don't have Buff Marion in this one, because in River City they established Buff Marion, but in this one she's got a gun, and I got kind of accustomed to Buff Marion. But hey, different creators, different developers. No one cares about the continuity of Double Dragon. All right. Last one, and I mostly included this one because I knew Will would really want to talk about it. We got the full trailer for Disney's Haunted Mansion 2023.
Yeah.
Will, I just want you to go off. Go for it.
Yeah, this is a giant life for me. The Haunted Mansion is like probably the most like well-made theme park ride in existence. I would argue that even though it's not like a thrill ride, that no other theme park anything has come close to that level of detail and storytelling and lore and like effects spectacle. And the Eddie Murphy Haunted Mansion movie wasn't very good. So like seeing the fact that like this place looks like the inside of the Haunted Mansion, and there are references to the ghosts, and that the fucking Hatbox Ghost, which is like my favorite Disney Parks character ever, is going to be the main villain, and he looks awesome, and his voice sounds fucking great. I'm incredibly hyped. Like, I haven't been this excited for a movie in a while.
I'm happy to hear that for you. And I'm kind of giving life based on that. Like, I might not have given this a second glance if someone with your expertise hadn't been excited for it. Because, like, I mean, I watch it myself, and I'm like, it looks all right. I'm not quite... Of course, I've been on Haunted Mansion, and I like it. I'm just not quite on the lookout for the same, like, cues. I like that Agent Stone from Sonic is there. It seems to be, like, I couldn't help but, like... It's hard not to think of, like, Jungle Cruise, because I thought that movie was kind of stinky. And, like, with the Ride movies, I'm like, are they going to be, like, all have that Disney sheen? And this one, I'm not going to say it doesn't have that, but I do see them kind of working with some different outlets here and there. So I will give, ironically, the movie about the dead a life as well.
Yeah, I had the privilege of going on this ride last month and actually quite enjoyed it. I mean, Disneyland overall was a very welcome surprise for me as to how good it was, but I really did like this ride. And this movie I'm really enjoying the vibe of, because I really like the aesthetic of like spooky, not necessarily horror scary. And this looks like it's capturing that vibe pretty well. And Danny DeVito's in it, so life from me.
Right.
Yeah, And like a huge part of the original Haunted Mansion was like the balance between spooky and funny, and it does look like this movie's aiming to kind of capture that, which I really respect.
Now, are we going to change our minds if the rumors are true that Jared Leto is in it?
No. You know what? Jared Leto cannot ruin this for me.
I almost want to say he's
Yeah.
supposed to be the Hatbox Ghost, but I wonder if I'm just saying that because it would wound Will the worst. I don't know if it's necessarily true.
I mean, honestly, if he is the Hatbox Ghost, he's doing a really good job. Like, the Hatbox Ghost voice is really cool.
Yeah, if he's like inconsequential enough, or if he's doing a good enough job that I can't tell it's him, then that's great. It's not going to be like a Morbius situation.
That's fair. All right, so we will give this the opposite of what Disney has given the Margot Robbie ostensible Pirates of the Caribbean revival, life.
Flawless victory.
And it's unanimous life, so I get to put something a little better right there. I'll figure it out. I don't know. All right. Well, that's our little energy gatherer, our little warm up. Will, the first top of the evening.
All right, so this one I actually have to thank Sherman for because he showed me that it existed. I'm going to toast Illustrated Al. So I love Weird Al. He's one of my favorite musical, geniuses, honestly. And I listen to his music a lot when I'm down, and as the friend group has been listening to him a lot, which has been great. And one day, Tommy sends me a picture of like this book called Illustrated Al at Barnes & Noble. So I was like, oh my god, this seems awesome. And I look it up, and it's like a book where the Weird Al songs are comics. And that's just like fucking awesome. I went to Barnes & Noble, I think like the weekend after, and tried to find it, and it was there. And it's fun because like the lyrics are the comic panels, so I could like put on the song and like read it along with the lyrics. And god, it's just so much fun. Like most stuff, like all stuff Weird Al has a part in. What's really cool is they got a ton of different like comic artists to draw these pictures, and like no two are the same, so it is kind of like an anthology, not just celebrating Weird Al, but also like the comics. And they have like a mix of, classic Weird Al songs and some more obscure ones. Like they have Dare to Be Stupid as the first song, and then they got like something like The Biggest Ball of Twine in Minnesota in Midway. It's just so much fun to read. I've never quite had a comic book experience like that. And I think that is partially due to the fact that, when in comic books they have like the boxes that like explain what's going on, kind of. Yeah, so they have that, except it's the Weird Al lyrics. So it's fun, like, putting on Dare to Be Stupid, and obviously I've heard that song like a million times, but still just like following along with the comic and being like, oh, hey, here's this lyric, and you kind of like pace yourself as though it is the song. On top of that, a bit of a side note, I forgot that basically every Weird Al song has like some type of like mention of gore in it, because every single like story in this has someone dying or getting like eviscerated. And like the first two times I was like, ha 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 ha, but then like by the time I got to the fourth story and there was like another graphic picture of like someone getting torn in half, I was like, I didn't realize so many Weird Al songs just like talked about death and like killing people and like ripping them to shreds. But it's all part of the appeal, and it's part of what makes it funny. It is it's a lot funnier to hear Weird Al say that he wants to stick his hand in a blender than say he wants to like bash it with a hammer. And the comic artist took that and they drew someone shoving their hand in a blender. So if you love Weird Al, and if you even like Weird Al, I give a big recommendation to this, because it is just so much fun to read. The art is very charming. Obviously, Weird Al songs are hilarious, and it's, like I said, it's got a great spread of them. I think my favorite, even though Dare to Be Stupid is my favorite Weird Al song, I think I liked Everything You Know Is Wrong the best in this. Because it was really stylized, and there were like multiple kind of pages of stuff, and it just looked really good. So yeah, to all you Weird Al fans out there, go ahead and go down to your Barnes & Noble and pick up Illustrated.
I'm glad I could brighten your day with that, because I found myself wandering through Barnes & Noble a lot, hoping something will catch my eye. I was like, oh, hello there, and I had to show you because I knew you'd be all over it. I like you've sent me one picture of Weird Al from Fat, and he's like created a galaxy of junk food, and he kind of looks like Thanos.
Oh yeah,
those
that's
are really
badass
fucking
as
cool.
fuck.
I think it's a very cool like Weird Al music videos alone. Excuse me, are like so many different styles and ideas. Sorry, now it's the hiccups. That it makes a lot of sense to let all kinds of different artists try their hand at illustrating them out.
Yeah. I think Weird Al kind of exists as an artist just to like bring people joy. It's not about like, the deep message. It's just about, hey, what if Michael Jackson sang about eating food instead of beat it? And I think there's a lot of like there's a lot of kind of gold in that, in just kind of pure unadulterated fun. And I think it's completely on display in the book. And I also request that you do put a picture of Weird Al in the thumbnail because of this.
Of course, I'll figure something out. Maybe he's been in a lot of cartoons.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Barnyard. You had to put the Barnyard one in there.
Into the Weird Al verse.
No, I mean, we've been listening to a lot of Weird Al lately, which is great because before you started like playing a bunch of them for me, Will, I honestly hadn't listened to too much.
That's a damn shame.
What really strikes me that like Weird Al has perfected that most other parody artists, like I would say 99.9% of parody artists have not gotten into their heads yet, is that his songs stand alone on their own as good songs.
Yeah.
If you listen to something like who's that guy on YouTube who was making like parody songs like every week, like Brock Baker or something?
Misha.
What, who?
No, Misha made original songs. I play Pokemon Go. That's original.
I play Pokemon Go every
Well, sure, but like
Sorry,
if you've
Brock Baker.
Yeah, like Brock Baker, I think is the one I'm thinking of in particular, or like Barely Political or something. Just those YouTube channels during like the prime time, like 2010s, where everything was a song parody. The main issue they were running into is that they would parody the songs and then they would just ramble. The lyrics would just be constant rambling. There was never any like repeating chorus. It was just like them making a bunch of stupid jokes to the tune of a popular song, even if it didn't make any sense. But like Weird Al, he makes something like what's a good line? Like a surgeon. And you could listen to that and you could honestly believe that it isn't a parody song. You could honestly believe it's an original song if you've never heard the original, because it has the structure of a real song, and that just makes it stand out as so good to me.
Yeah,
I think I pointed out. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, I just learned that I Lost on Jeopardy is a parody of an actual song.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Our Love's in Jeopardy. Yeah,
because we're like constantly scratching our heads like, is this a parody of a certain song or is it a style parody, and we can't really tell, and that's just kind of speaks to his genius.
Well, I think we agreed that Dare to Be Stupid absolutely goes harder than any actual Devo song, unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
I feel like it's like Weird Al, Tenacious D, and Lonely Island are like the Father, God, and the Holy Spirit. And everyone else was doing like their take on Kesha's TikTok in like 2010. And I don't know, it was about Nyan Cat or something.
Yeah. But But that's it for me, so I will pass it over to Dav.
Sweet. And I just want to make an amendment. It is not Brock Baker, it is Bart Baker.
Oh.
Because Brock Baker is a voice actor and Bart Baker is a shitty, talentless hack. Okay. Anyway, moving on. Anyway, let's talk about, speaking of, going bald, Over the Hedge.
Oh, Jesus.
This is gonna be a hard roast from me, and I imagine you both would agree with me.
Yeah.
This was fucking torture. I mean, we watched this for movie night for context. This is one of our friends' picks, and you know, when one of us picks a movie, we sit down and we watch it. I didn't want to like break his heart and say, well, no, we're not watching this movie. I hate it. Because I mean, I hadn't watched it in such a long time, like since I was a little kid. So I was like, okay, maybe it'll stand out as being somewhat okay. But no, it's actually worse than I remember. I think when I was a kid, I was much more open to fart jokes, and now I'm just I'm just like fucking Homelander watching the movie.
This was like, I feel like, was this like 2005 or 4?
2006.
2006. And it was like, you know, of course I love animation, but around that age you think you're too old for animation maybe. So I didn't see Over the Hedge or The Ant Bully, or rough that era, Flushed Away.
I watched
didn't
Ant
fucking
Bully in theaters.
I was too old to. I was older than the point of seeing every single animated movie in theaters like you do when you're like little. And, you know, of course now I'm back at that point.
Yeah.
But I'd also argue that was such like a bleak spot for animated film where everyone's a fucking celebrity and it's a ton of fart jokes. Whereas I think we've hit another gold spot where we're like, oh, we like to have actual style and substance and not the most hideous fucking CGI animal characters you've ever seen, like in Over the Hedge.
Yeah. It's an ugly fucking movie.
Ugh.
It really is.
It looks unfinished. Like this was between for DreamWorks, this was between like Shrek 2 and Shrek the Third. And Shrek the Third is a horrible, I would say Shrek the Third might even be worse than this. But Shrek 2 I think even looks better than this movie does.
I mean, it's not hard.
No, it really isn't. It's so goddamn ugly.
Raccoon is... Sorry.
I was gonna say, what was the movie we watched, like, in addition to that one?
King Kong.
Oh, yeah, and that one was actually pretty good.
Yeah. The raccoon in Over the Hedge looks like ugly Sonic. Like, straight up.
I think that's honestly being mean to ugly Sonic.
No, yeah, like... And people love, I'm subtweeting our friend here, but it's happened with a few people I speak to about animated films where I'm like, that movie looks ugly. Meet the Robinsons looks ugly, and Over the Hedge looks ugly, and I always get the fucking, oh, well, it was this early year and technology was not developed, but those are both post-Incredibles, so there's no fucking excuse.
Oh, yeah.
And like,
it's like you could still stylize your movie to even without great tech. It's like the same thing with video games. Like if you give it a good art style, it doesn't matter that it doesn't have the highest fidelity. It'll still be nice to look at in 20 years.
Like, just today, because it's the last week of school, we're not doing fucking anything except watching movies. And I put on Monsters, Inc. for my kids. And it was the first time I watched that movie and thought to myself, oh, there's like rough edges here. But it's stylized and detailed to a point where I don't think that's due to any, like, lack of effort, for Christ's sake. Like, those characters are very well thought out and very expressive, and they don't look like PS2 cutscenes.
Mm-hmm.
No, and Pixar was very smart to avoid humans until the technology was there. They would just do, like, toys and monsters and shit, and it worked.
Yeah, they were green with it.
You're green with it!
That parody video looks better than Over the Hedge.
Honestly, though.
It's a shame Joe's a bad person. But...
Oh, he is?
Yeah, yeah.
I kind of want the tea. I didn't hear about this.
I'll let you look that up later.
Okay.
That's some rough shit.
I'll add this to my notepad.
Yeah.
Joe T. Hope I don't regret this later.
Anyway, yeah, this story is nonsensical. It's See, I really hate this specific type of kids movie that just like thinks that children are really stupid and unable to process anything more than this. But I'm glad DreamWorks has had its sort of redemption arc happening and came back around to making good films.
Oh,
Yeah, because we got the bad guys and Puss in Boots.
Oh, that's Kung Fu Panda 4.
Okay, let's just hope for the best with Kung Fu Panda 4.
and Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, in theaters this summer.
That's DreamWorks?
Yeah.
Huh.
It's taking a Disney character and vilifying them. Of course it's DreamWorks.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty big for that movie trailer to be playing in front of The Little Mermaid.
I know. I like that. I like it.
Okay. Well, just like the movie that I roasted, this roast is going to be short and worthless. So I'm going to pass it on to you, Tommy.
Okay. Man. So I saw 2 movies that were not terrible recently, but they were disappointing 6s. I'm having a hard time making up my mind as to which one to discuss. Would you guys rather hear about Polite Society, an indie martial arts film by way of Spy Kids and Scott Pilgrim, or Fool's Paradise from the mind of Charlie Day?
I feel like I got to hear about Fool's Paradise.
I would also like to hear that.
All right, let's rip that Band-Aid off. So I guess the best I can review Fool's Paradise is that someone, perhaps in mean spirit, posted side by side the Rotten Tomato scores of Blackberry, which features Glenn Howerton, and Fool's Paradise, and simply said, this is going to be a great Always Sunny gag someday. Because Fool's Paradise has its heart in the right place, but I am afraid it's a little dumb, as the title suggests. I thought it had good groundwork. It is starring, directed, and maybe written by Charlie Day of Always Sunny fame. We're a bunch of Always Sunny goblins. We get in our little circle and quote all the worst things they've ever said. Watch a few episodes. We all love Always Sunny here. So Charlie did his Charlie work and made Fool's Paradise. It is Charlie plays a mute man who is determined to not have processing ability above, I think they say, like a 10-year-old or so. And due to deteriorate no funding to keep him housed, he's thrown onto the street. And through lots of hijinks, he ends up on a movie set. Because he's mute, he cannot speak for himself. So he is thrust into situations of like stardom and lots of the Hollywood rigmarole. And he can't say no because he can't talk. People end up thinking he is called Latte Pronto because Ethan Hawke says that he's the director, and people just assume it's his name. I'd say what I kind of started to pick up on at a certain point is that this film is Charlie Day's autobiography of being a little Philadelphia boy who loves ghouls and is kind of a weirdo, and having a wildly successful TV show just thrust you right into Hollywood. Because now he's Luigi, and he's in Horrible Bosses and Pacific Rim. Of course he's not his character from Always Sunny, but you get the idea that there's a little bit of him there, that he's
takes inspiration from
a fictionalized exaggerate. I don't think he actually lives in Squalor and plays night crawlers, but you get the idea he's, he carries himself as a bit simple and a bit humble. And what a lot of people have observed is that of the 3 Always Sunny guys, you have Rob McElhenney, who's gone full Hollywood to the point that he's hanging out with Ryan Reynolds and buying soccer teams. Then Glenn is kind of in the middle, and Charlie just has not really acclimated to like a Hollywood lifestyle. So I think this movie about a character who is suffering through the pretension of Hollywood and can't speak to stop it is probably autobiographical, and I think he has his heart in the right place for that. But what that results in is a movie where horrid character after horrid character make a man miserable. And that's kind of about the size of it. Kate Beckinsale is like an Angelina Jolie type who marries him and adopts a bunch of kids and kind of takes over his life. Ken Jeong is this horrible, like, fast-talking agent, um, who, like, wants to propel his career. It's just, like, character after character clinging to Latte Pronto, as he's called in the film, and making him do things he doesn't want to. And it's not very fun to watch. It gets very, very bizarre, very fast. You know, and like I said, this isn't like atrocious. It's like a disappointing 6 in that, as a director, Charlie has an eye for landscapes. The Always Sunny intro, where it's just the car moving past lots of Philadelphia landmarks, was just Charlie sticking his camera out a car window one day. Like, he does have an eye. Yeah,
I actually
yeah.
didn't know that.
He has an eye for very simple, catching imagery. There's some landscapes and shots that are really beautiful in this movie. But it's kind of like, we've seen the Hollywood critique of the mover shaker agent before. We've seen the overbearing Hollywood wife. I don't think he's adding anything really to the discussion. I think all of the actors are behaving like they are on some cocktail of drugs and they're just kind of wandering through, arguably as a favor to Charlie, sadly. It's not funny. It seems to want to have heart, in that one of the characters, I don't want to go into full spoilers, but the movie ends with him reconciling with one of the characters I mentioned in a way that's very, very unearned and honestly kind of stupid. It's a super, super strange movie. Yeah, which is what's unfortunate is, like, this silent character has this, like, very, it's like, it feels very, like, vaudeville inspired or, like, 1920s film inspired, but past that, it just doesn't have anything interesting to say. It's kind of a bummer. He wades from, like, character to character. The film wants to be serious. It's like, there's some point where him getting roped up in Hollywood shit culminates in him uncovering, like, a weird Pizzagate cult almost. I don't know what Charlie was trying to say about that, but the movie takes itself very seriously for that chunk, I almost feel, and it's a huge mess, I am sorry to report. Yeah.
Oh man, that sucks.
I love Charlie. Charlie!
Yeah, I mean, I think he's very, very good for, like, TV. And I don't know if he's, like, actually directed / written anything like a big feature film before, so I think that he might have just, like, for one, he's, like, new to this sort of format, so it's not going to be great right off the bat, but I think he might have just been trying to go for a little too big for, like, what his big debut is, than he was actually able to handle. But it is a real shame, because I listened to the Always Sunny podcast, and they did an episode where they talked about both that movie and Blackberry, and they kind of just discussed how they all watched each other's films, and they were just, like, really hyping each other up. So I think it's great that they're just, like, really motivating each other in spite of what the general opinion might be. So
yeah, like I said, it's not terrible. I do see the beginnings of, like, what could be a really interesting career for Charlie, if he continues to play into his strengths. But yeah, it can be a little, because, I kind of go in with the mentality of, like, oh, I'm a big Always Sunny fan, and I know it's not going to be the same, but, it might, there might be something that tracks there. I guess, like, I guess maybe there is something in how inherently, undeniably sympathetic Latte Pronto is as a character, in that he can't speak or really do anything to dissuade your opinion of him. Whereas the humor of Always Sunny has always been awful people, you know? So I wonder if that energy went into all of the side characters, which causes them to surround Latte Pronto and create just like a very unpleasant dynamic. Because you just feel so bad for him the whole time, unfortunately.
Damn. Yeah, that just sounds like a bummer. I don't really like mean comedy movies where it's all kind of at like the expense of the protagonist.
Yeah, no, this would drive, because it is all like, vapid Hollywood people, which, well, you in particular would be like driven insane by this.
Yeah.
And of course it paints them as the bad people in the situation, but it's like unrelenting in what they do to him. I think that's about the size of it. Will, why don't you go ahead?
All right. I'm going to toast, and I'm lucky because I've got all toast this time.
Oh.
I'm going to toast a TV show that I watched because I ran out of things to watch. The Good Place. Now,
That's
I'm
not
only...
allowed.
What's that?
Dav has toasted The Good Place a year or so ago, and we can't repeat topics, so sorry. No.
Oh, shoot. Okay, well, that's
I veto that. I think it's fine. Let's hear Will's opinion on it.
No, I'm kidding. Of course, I'm joking.
Okay, fine. I will toast The Good Place Season 1.
There we go.
I think Dav toasted the whole thing.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I think, like, the awkward comedy can get a little tiresome. Like, The Office wasn't for me. I liked most of Parks and Rec, but there were some parts that I'm just like, gah. But I heard good things about The Good Place, and so I gave it a shot, and I'm really enjoying it. I think what sets it apart is it's just such a unique concept. A show that takes place, a sitcom that takes place in the afterlife. So this time it is like, ordinary people going through things, but the things are like fucking insane. Like, in the first episode, or was it I can't remember which episode it was, the first or the second, there's like shrimp flying through the air. And, there's like, people flying everywhere. And it works so well. Pretty much all the characters I like, except for, and without going into spoilers, I'll say Jianyu. Because, yeah, I can't say why without getting into spoilers. But, Michael...
Who are we avoiding? Is it just Tommy that we're not wanting to spoil here?
I've seen the first season. I know what his deal is.
I feel like the show is old enough that it's kind of open for spoilers overall.
Okay. All right, well then, I really don't like Jason Mendoza. He's like, I feel like in every sitcom there's like the, patented annoying character, and I guess they're very well liked because like every sitcom has one, but I just do not enjoy those characters that are just there to be annoying. But I mean, like, the characters like Michael, who's kind of like the head of the good place, and Chidi, who's like this like anxiety-ridden ethics scholar, and even a character like there's a character named Janet, and she's like technically supposed to be like the afterlife equivalent of a robot, but she's like a ton of fun.
She's so fucking the cactus bit. The fucking
Oh yeah. And even characters like on the first episode, I was like, man, I fucking hate them. I grew around to like. I like Tahani now. And I didn't think I ever would, because typically I just don't like that type of character. I think what sets us apart from like most sitcoms nowadays is, number one, the idea, but number two, it's about people exploring like a situation that they could never even comprehend and just trying to figure it out. So it's not like oh, they find their long lost brother, like, oh, someone forgot to pay the rent. It's like, oh no, they're in the afterlife and one of them is an imposter and will destroy the entire world if she continues to mess up. And obviously there's like, should I say the twist at the end of season 1?
I don't see why not.
Yeah, go for
Yeah.
it.
So there's like the twist that the good place is actually the bad place. And initially I just kind of thought, okay, well, you can't make 4 seasons out of that. But I'm on season 2 now, and honestly, it's going pretty well. Every character, even Jason to an extent, is more likable. Because we've like seen them kind of overcome their their insecurities and their negatives. And it's just really cool to kind of see them become friends. I also feel like a lot of sitcoms are about just like terrible people who never get better. But it's nice to see that a theme of the show is like, no, you can always improve yourself. There's no like set, oh, you're going to be this way forever.
It's the anti Always Sunny.
What's that?
It's the anti Always Sunny.
Honestly, kind of. Although Always Sunny is, I feel like, one of the few shows that does like horrible people very well, because I don't think I've seen an episode.
Like so hard.
Yeah. But when there's like the character in Parks and Rec, I can't remember her name, but Aubrey Plaza plays her.
April.
Yeah, April. She's like a horrible person, and she gets kind of better, but not really. And so I just found myself, even though I like most of Parks and Rec, just being like kind of dreading every time she would come up. But this show doesn't really have that issue, even though the characters are not the best people and they have their like big flaws. They acknowledge them and they're like, okay, shit, I need to get better. I feel like that's a great message, and I'm really excited to see the rest of the seasons, especially considering, typically I watch maybe an episode or 2 of a sitcom, but this one like actually has an overarching story. And hearing that they got to end it on their own terms, how they liked, makes me really excited. One of my coworkers told me that season 4 was the best season, which is always a good sign. So yeah, The Good Place was it was good.
I remember when I told you the plot twist of season 1, and your response was like, well, that's just a Twilight Zone episode. But I think you would agree with me that like what makes it work is more like the character involvement and how it helps those characters reflect on themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, like because like a sitcom largely by design requires characters to not learn lessons so they can get in wacky hijinks next week. Whereas this is like a sitcom pretty much only in that it's a comedy. It's really a serial epic with like a moving arc and characters learning things. I remember when we learned Chidi went to hell because he, thought he was being kind by letting people make putting people before himself when really it just made him indecisive and impossible to be around. I think is like I felt very called out by, for one thing. And just like one of those very it's just a very thoughtful show that way in how it delves into people's flaws.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I also think like I thought, because in the Twilight Zone episode where it turns out the guy is in hell the whole time, it's like a huge reveal and it's got a lot of emotional weight. But in this one, it was done in like a different way where it's kind of like a triumph for the characters. So I feel like even though they have like similar plots, they're different enough that they really shine.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say too much, because obviously I did already toast this show before, but just to retread a little bit, I am such a sucker for like afterlife sort of stories and explorations of that, because it is such like it's a thing that like most people really don't actually want to think about, despite the fact that, you know, like religions exist and people kind of devote their whole lives to it. You know, even like your average Christian is not really thinking about hell or heaven because they just don't really want to. And this show, I think, does such a great job of like, okay, here's the thing. If this stuff exists, here are the implications of that. And even in like through the lens of like a humorous sort of comedy, that just works super well for me, especially. But overall, I think it's a great exploration of just that idea. And I will say, Will, don't give up on Jason yet. He I think, you know, the actor does such a great job with him for one, but he does also get like pretty much every character gets some pretty great development as the show goes on.
It's good to know.
Yeah.
Right now I would say my favorite character is Michael.
Oh, he's great.
He's so good.
Yeah, because just fucking hilarious.
Do you think?
Yeah, Oh, go ahead.
Do you think they said we're gonna make a TV show about heaven, and that's why the entire cast is like really hot?
I never even like considered that might be a thing. Sure.
I'm mostly joking, but I'm actually very attracted to almost everyone in the cast. Like, I just wanted to get that out there.
I think it's because they're leading actors in a TV show.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I don't know. I was hoping to get some riffs off of that, but it just made me come off as weird. Oh well. Go on.
No, I mean, I look, I get it. I get it, Tommy. I understand.
So Darcy Carden's not a controversial wood, is what you're saying.
Who is she again?
She's Janet.
No, I wouldn't say that's controversial.
There we go. I'm not the hear me out guy.
No, I mean like the Janet, the character, sure, but like the actress, no.
Yeah.
That's not a hot take.
Yeah. It's probably getting cut. Anyway, this is the cut. This is me realizing that I can cut things and just like losing my fucking mind. Oh well. Sorry, Will. Go ahead.
And if you cut this, Tommy, you're going to the bad place.
Damn it.
Yeah.
I guess you could say.
Yeah. Anyway, you're going there anyways for wanting to fuck the Chipbats. Deb, over to you.
Okay. Tommy?
Yeah.
It's time for a bit of a clash.
Okay.
Fucking Black Adam was not terrible. Like not as horrible as I was expecting, but it's still bad.
Okay, why Tommy it's time for? Because you know Will's gonna change your mind to agree with you like he always does.
No,
I like Black Adam.
Will Engel, who texted me after seeing Captain Marvel and said, Captain Marvel's my favorite Avenger, and this is possibly my new favorite MCU movie. And then we met Dab.
I didn't say that second part.
And then we
You know what, Tommy? You want the honest opinion?
Yeah.
I'm gonna sound like a fucking anime supervillain right now. I still enjoy Captain Marvel. I just think it is far funnier to see you so bent out of shape that Dav doesn't like Captain Marvel.
I'm not bent out of shape that's a whole nother conversation. I take issue with some of Dav's arguments against it. We're talking about another awkward superhero film, I get it, that I'm weirdly stubborn about. Let's talk about Black Adam.
Okay, Black Adam. The problem with Black Adam is that it's trying to do a lot of things that I don't give a shit about. Mostly, the Justice Society stuff is painful to sit through for me.
See, I think that's exactly where the difference is, because I'm a big fan of those characters from the comics, and I think that's almost where it, like, begins and ends, is because it's full of stuff I can, like, soy face at, and I'm sure is, like, gibberish to most people.
It's, I just, like, I don't feel like a single one of those characters had, like, the slightest bit of just enjoyment. I couldn't get invested in any of them at all. They were really trying with, Pierce Brosnan's character.
Dr. Fate?
And I just, like, yeah, Dr. Fate. I couldn't care, man. There was,
man, I love Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. That's perfect casting.
Like, I think obviously Pierce Brosnan did a good job, and I think he portrayed it well. I just think that the character is written very, like, boring. I don't care about anything that he does or like stands for.
And this is where I want to be like, oh, but it's like, but this is, again, it's me being just like knowing shit that the average moviegoer has no reason to know because they have lives. So I'm the problem here ultimately, but I can't argue with what you're saying.
I am coming at this from the perspective of an average moviegoer. I haven't read a single DC comic in my life, but like this is just, as a movie, it does not work for me. And like I think you both gave this like an 8 out of 10, right?
Don't put us on blast.
Yep.
That much.
Well, what, you shouldn't be ashamed to like the movies that you like.
Yeah. Here, okay. Here's a point that I made that I'm interested to hear. What I kind of liked, from just a pure movie standpoint, is that, you know, a lot of people were quick to complain like, oh, The Rock isn't being charismatic, he's not funny. But I think it's I almost feel, maybe not very funny. I think there's a lot of humor to be found in that he's surrounded by, like, people who have idealized superheroes for so long within this universe. It's a kid who's like, well, you need a catchphrase for when you kill, and he's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I honestly found that to be kind of a glib bit of commentary that, like, the idea of, like, having a quip or a catchphrase is utterly foreign to this guy who's been asleep in a rock for centuries.
Okay, then just watch Terminator 2.
You know what? That is a good one. Let's watch Terminator 2, guys.
That's a great fucking movie, Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Should have a T2 double feature. We'll do T2 Terminator 2 and T2 Trainspotting.
Black Adam is one of my favorite comic villains of all time, so I kind of liked it just based off of, like what Tommy said, the comics. But I also don't know how I would, like, view it if I was someone who didn't know who any of these characters are, because I'm not someone who doesn't know who these characters are. So it's a bit hard for me to kind of put myself in that headspace.
To give you an idea, when they first introduced the Justice Society, I was convinced this was gonna go like the Invincible route, and they were just gonna get fucking massacred.
That's what I almost.
Because
Sorry.
They're just it feels almost like a parody the way they're introduced. It's just so cookie cutter and like generic for like a superhero movie to introduce like this big team that I was like, okay, they're gonna do, you know, like the Suicide Squad even. How they open with that, where it's like, these are the most badass people on the planet, and then they all just get fucking killed.
I'm not gonna lie, I think I would like that version of the movie a lot, honestly, just to show how ruthless Black Adam is within the universe.
That's what I was expecting, because like Black Adam, the way this movie was marketed is just like, oh, Black Adam is this anti-hero who isn't afraid of killing, and well, he kind of is. He kind of just is a hero. Like, he occasionally kills people, I guess, and there was that admittedly kind of cool, like, slow-mo scene when he first, like, emerges.
He puts the grenade in the dude's mouth!
Yeah, and I thought that was, like, neat, but, like, Black Adam is only, like, killing people that are objectively horrible. He's not, like... It's kind of just, like, this pussification of the anti-hero, you know, kind of like Venom, where... like, oh, he's not afraid to kill unless the person he's killing is a good person. In which case, okay, well then he's just like what a superhero would be.
True.
So it feels very muted and toned down. Like I don't see Black Adam as this ruthless anti-hero.
There is a far better version of this film, like, undeniably. I think that a lot of it is like, it has a lot of executive stench on it, I feel like. I feel like DC is so bad at like blending what's a studio note, and so shit always sticks out like a sore thumb when it's like, this is clearly a note to make something more like Marvel. Like, I think of when a bunch of the good guys gather up and Atom Smasher just has like a bucket of chicken and Dr. Fate like whisps it away, and it's the worst looking CGI you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it's like that's such a Marvel joke, and it's like bad looking. You just like fit it in at the last minute. I do think there's creative. I don't know if Black Adam, like, where I'm coming from is that, like, yes, Black Adam is not more or less ruthless than any given superhero, but I think people's reactions seem a little more appropriate. Like, I wish that there was actual like, and I'm not saying it's brilliant or like the farthest they could go, but they actually discussed whether or not Black Adam should be allowed to kill, whereas like Spider-Man, the MCU is over here being like, instant kill mode with like no consequences whatsoever.
That is true. I mean, I'm not saying that the MCU version of that is good. I do think that I mean, let's not get into the endgame conversation, but that whole ending sequence is pretty awful, to be honest. But this movie, like you said, I do appreciate that sometimes the other heroes will like call him out, like, "Hey, dude, you can't just like kill people." And I liked the scene where Hawkman like had to save a couple of people that Black Adam just dropped.
Yeah.
But that was like, to me, that was like the farthest it really went, and I was kind of hoping for more. Like I really don't want them to hold back as much as they are with this sort of thing. I understand that, you know, if they make him a ruthless, horrible, just killing machine, it's a bit harder to, you know, make marketable toys. But at the same time, who gives a shit? Just make a good movie, for God's sake.
Let me ask, you know, liked it or not, do you think it was really worth all the drama that it was subject to?
Outside of the drama that was specifically directed at Dwayne Johnson for being an egotistical piece of shit, no.
I thought it was like a little drummed up. Like, people were treating it like it was Morbius. It was not that bad.
No, it's nowhere near as bad as Morbius.
Yeah.
I mean, I still gave this, I think, like a 5, and Morbius got a 1 from me.
Yeah.
That is bottom of the barrel, horrible. I mean, even the post-credit scene in this movie is, like, it's cringe, but it's nowhere near as bad as Morbius's post-credit scene.
It's mostly cringe because of just how poorly it's aged actor-wise.
Yeah.
It's poorly aged, and from, like, I'm coming at this from, like, not a comic book reader, but from what I've heard, Superman isn't a Black Adam rival.
He is.
Is he? Is he like
there's a movie called Superman and Shazam versus Black Adam.
And Shazam. I would not place him as...
Isn't he
it's not like
Shazam
rival? He is a Shazam rival. He's not like a main Superman villain, but like Superman and him do interact. It's not like Lex Luthor and Wonder Woman.
I feel... So Black Adam in the comics has like there is straight, like, he does indeed start off as a Shazam villain, and that's where he is most known. I do take issue when people say he's just that, not because I feel he can necessarily easily be a Superman villain, but there is a line of Black Adam comics that don't involve Shazam at all. He's evolved a lot as a character, and I think that's something that just gets lost in the sauce a bit, I guess. If you let me go off, I'll never stop, so I'll just kind of leave it at that. I think it's a muddied water, more of a muddied water than people think, but I ultimately agree it's not the ideal choice that it would be right up against Superman.
I mean, fair enough. I think it's undeniable, even if you are a casual moviegoer, that Dwayne Johnson is kind of just... Obviously he did not succeed in doing this, but he was kind of trying to make himself the main character of this DC universe.
Yeah.
And it was painful. I mean, the fact that he like kind of shoehorned that in at the end of like DC League of Super Pets and then set this up, and it's bad. I mean, Dwayne Johnson is probably my least favorite of the three wrestling actors you think of between like him, John Cena, and Dave Bautista, and obviously Bautista is the best out of those. But it's cringe. It's horrible to see this person who is just completely obsessed with themselves trying to make everybody else obsessed with him too.
It's a bummer. I'm a little like, okay, but on the other hand, he could have played, like, he's one of the biggest stars. He could have played any superhero, and been a big star through that method, like, 2 times as easy than by, like, attaching yourself to Black Adam, who, isn't, who I love who's also one of my favorite DC characters, but isn't the cash cow people see, like he could have been, I don't know, could have been anyone years ago. But he seems at least, I'm not saying he's perfect. He seems at least attached to Black Adam as a character enough that the bid in that regard does seem genuine. Now, his ego was driving a lot of this, of the post-credit scene stuff, blood on his hands there. But I don't necessarily buy into the narrative that he wanted to be the main character. Because if he asked to, he could have been Aquaman years ago. I'm not saying that would have been a good choice, but he could have. Like, that's just where
Probably, yeah. He did have, the billing for that.
And, he could have been any number of Marvel heroes, which is they're way ahead in the race. So I don't necessarily buy into, and he wanted to, this is his hostile takeover. I think that's large, I think it's more, and, the best possible faith is, he wanted to retain Black Adam as his own character that I've discussed. And I think it's ultimately column A and column B, that he felt strongly about Black Adam, but no small part of that was his ego because he was playing him.
Sure, I mean, I guess I could... that's fair. I still hate Dwayne Johnson.
Well, hey, I think episode 1 or 2 of this very podcast was me asking if we like John Cena or Dwayne Johnson better, and you were not so steadfast at the time.
Probably not. I mean, it's been 2 years since we started this, so it's been enough time for him to become very annoying. I think at the time John Cena was in hot water for pandering to China, so I probably took that route, which I'm still not a fan of. But yeah, I mean, I think it's undeniable that Dwayne Johnson is just, in the words of one of our dear friends, oversaturated in this market, and I don't want to see him anymore. I don't want to see him as a superhero. I don't want to see him wearing a beige button-up shirt in the 60th fucking movie where he does that.
What about a black turtleneck and gold chain?
Oh, you know what? I feel that fit might win me over if he actually went there, but
I'm glad we could have a leveled and measured discussion about Black Adam, even if we didn't agree about it. I think when the Marvels comes out, the tone may be quite different.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always glad to have just a civil discussion about this sort of thing. You fucking piece of shit. I'm passing it off to you.
I do want to. What's the temperature on the Marvels with you guys?
I actually don't think it looks too bad.
Well,
the director the director guested on Blank Check, and she openly shit talked Endgame, and I think that's a good thing.
That is good, and I think Miss Marvel is a pretty she's got a lot of potential. I think if they actually want to do something good for once. But yeah, I mean, I don't really hate all of these characters, and the trailer that they released I thought was decent.
I thought you we don't have to get into it, because I thought you weren't feeling so hot about Captain Marvel herself.
Captain Marvel, the main thing I have against her is that her power scaling is just not consistent. She either is able to destroy giant spaceships, or she is having a hard time in a fist fight with a big purple dude. And it's just she her character just kind of takes me out of the immersion, so to speak. And but I think that this movie looks like something where that might not be as big of an issue, considering she's around other very powerful characters with sort of their own cosmic abilities, so to speak. And I am cautiously optimistic about this. It could be terrible, but it could be okay, and okay is pretty good for MCU standards lately.
Yeah, true. Man, Yeah, seeing her in Fast X with like a grenade launcher is the most tempted I've ever been to watch those fucking movies. But
Don't be-
discussion for another day. All right, so my turn, I guess. I'll be toasting a video game. I have been playing a lot of new releases lately, and it's a lot of kind of intensive-ish stuff, and there's more on its way. So I wanted something retro and really easy to play, and that's how I wound up taking up Kirby's Dreamland 3. So this is, of course, the third Kirby's Dreamland game on the Super Nintendo, and it is a Kirby game, almost nothing to write home about, but there's really interesting aspects, because I think there's a very, very specific idea of what Kirby is now. Like, when I say it's a Kirby game, you guys probably thought of the exact same, kinda easy game where you absorb enemies. And this one feels a little like that. But, this is also, This is pre-Superstar Ultra, which is like the Kirby game that set the tone moving forward. So this one doesn't have some of the flourishes that one does. Like Kirby, he absorbs powers in this, he does not wear hats.
God, that is a fucking crime.
I know, yeah, it's a little depressing to see. So, like the idea of who Kirby was, rearranging in my seat here, was still being formed largely. Yeah, there's powers in this one you never see anymore, probably for good reason. Like, the first time I got Broom Kirby, I was like, oh, hey, he fights with a fucking broom. Wonderful, alright. Now, here's where things get a little nuts. Kirby, in this game, has animal buddies, just like Donkey Kong does. So, he will, at the halfway point or so of every stage in this game, come across a few of a handful of his animal characters. And here's where hamsters come back. I promised at the start. Chekhov's hamster, Rick the hamster. There's an octopus girl. There's an owl, a little bird, a cat, and a bill fish. And Kirby can mount one of these characters in some way, and they will somehow add recontextualize how Kirby moves. If you join up with the octopus, she can use her tentacles to help Kirby stick to ceilings instead of walking on the floor to avoid certain obstacles. Rick the hamster, who's the best one because hamsters rule, can climb on terrain like ice and rocks easily that would slow Kirby down. Then the animal buddy you are merged with redoes and recontextualizes Kirby's copy ability, too. So, if you're Fire Kirby, the Fire Kirby's ability is to turn into a fireball and shoot across the screen, and that's how it's always been, that's how it always will be for Fire Kirby. Then, if you are with the hamster, instead of shooting across the screen, when you're Fire Kirby on Rick, he breathes fire. And when you're Fire Kirby on the owl, who gives you omnidirectional control over the stage, meaning you can move in any direction by flying, which is kind of bananas for a 2D platformer, you can, drop fire downward. So, I think what gets old about Kirby is that sometimes copy abilities are very, very simple. It's like, oh, yeah, this is the one that shoots ice. This one gives you, 6 different variations of every copy ability that are specific to, a weird, wacky way each of these animal buddies controls. And that's something that I kind of wish was back in current... even Forgotten Land, that one has a lot of depth in its copy abilities, but it was ultimately, because you could level them up. But it was kind of ultimately, Sword Kirby is still Sword Kirby. Whereas in this one, it's like, oh, and I've never had the electric power and teamed up with the cat assist before. That's going to be its own total thing. Sometimes they're completely broken. Broom Kirby, combined with the cat, causes an action where the cat walks across the screen and wipes the floor with Kirby as though he were a sponge, and you just knock out everything in your path. So it's SNES rules. Nobody was paying that close attention. The level design is nothing to write home about, and that's why I think Superstar Ultra and Forgotten Land are still the essential Kirby games. This was like an interesting look, because these animal buddies are nowhere to be found in Kirby really anymore. Because Kirby has become this cosmic being who has killed God like 8 times, so he's not really friends with a hamster anymore. And that's a shame, because that hamster is great and adds some cool things to that game.
Is the hamster in the Squeak Squad, or is that a different game?
I can check. Like, are you asking, when you say is he in it, are you asking if he's in that game or if he's part of the Squeak Squad?
Like, if he's part of the Squeak Squad.
No, he is not. They're their own thing.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Excuse me. Oh. Yeah. They've recently reappeared in Star Allies because they had DLC for that game that brought back like every character. But Star Allies is kind of a game for babies. It's no Forgotten Land. Yeah, I think that's a fun game. I think it's easy to sleep on because it's like, oh, it's the 15th Kirby before Kirby was even all that interesting or good. But I think it does cool stuff. I would actually, if you're that into Kirby the way I am, it scratch that itch for just like a kind of quick and easy retro thing. So I'm not lifting my blood pressure at Octopath Traveler bosses, you know.
So retro.
Yeah. Fair enough. I plan on playing a Kirby game to completion at some point, but I tried the original, the one on the Game Boy once, and I was so bored out of my mind that I quit after like 5 minutes.
Well, he doesn't even copy in that one, does he?
I don't think so. I think it's just like the easiest platformer ever.
Baby's first platformer, yeah.
It really is, and it's, you know, if you even have like a sense of how those games work, it'll put you to sleep. But I still like Kirby as a character. The games, at least that one, are just too easy for me to really get invested in, but I am still interested in trying like a retro title from that, so I might look into this one at least.
I think Superstar Ultra, that one's kind of weird because it's like, it's not a straightforward Kirby adventure. It's almost like 5 episodes that are a little different. So like there's not so much like, if you find it boring, it'll kind of be over soon and be recontextualized. I think that's what kind of plays in its favor. And that seems to be like the popular choice for the best one. It's my personal favorite.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Well, you know, Kirby is small, and so are hamsters. So that one could be pretty small. Will, your last topic for the evening.
Okay, so last weekend, I picked the movies for movie night, and I want to toast The Mist. Stephen King's is a fantastic author, and I love him to death. But there is kind of like, especially in the like 80s, there was a Stephen King curse of like, no Stephen King movies are good. The Mist is the first like movie I remember that was like, that really got me in love with Stephen King. So basically what The Mist is there's this town, mist rolls in, there are monsters in the mist. Later we realized that the government was trying to like open portals to different dimensions, and
it's Half-Life.
Yeah, well, no, I actually looked it up. Half-Life was inspired by this.
That makes sense, yeah.
But yeah, the government was trying to open up portals to different dimensions, and then like it became a doorway. And it's also about like the town trying to survive and all the, you know, hectic religious bullshit that goes on. You know, it's easily one of Stephen King's best works as a story, but as a movie, I think it works really well. As you know, I'm a big fan of cosmic horror, and I think this movie does kind of like dip into that a bit because these creatures are from like a different world. However, what I really like about this, and something that I looked up was something they set out to do, is first of all, the creatures in this movie, fantastic designs.
There's like, it's like, it feels like Berserk to me almost.
Honestly, kind of. But the thing that's cool about the designs and what I was mentioning is that they set out to be like, yes, these creatures are from another planet, but they are still animals. So it's not like a Cthulhu thing where, like, you know, the animals are, like, unknowable. Like, we can see them and they look freaky because they're from a different, like, reality. But they're still animals and they still act like animals. I feel like that makes it more terrifying because, like, even... Like, I love cosmic horror and, like, all the Lovecraft stuff, but there is, like, the idea that maybe you can, like, reason with them somehow, and that's, like, why there's cults for the Elder Gods. No shame to Lovecraft, I think that world is perfect. But it is refreshing to see, like, oh, hey, here's some creatures from a different planet. They're not setting out to cause us any harm, they're just being animals. And at the same time, the designs are fantastic. Each one looks like, okay, this is kind of like an Earth animal, but it looks like an alien. I would say probably the best designed creature is near the end. The main characters are driving away, and they come across this, like, mountain-sized, like, behemoth creature that's just, like, walking across the freeway.
That thing, yeah.
Yeah. And, like, the one problem I have with it is sometimes the acting isn't super great. But, I mean, overall, like, it's not like everyone is a bad actor in this. There are just, like, certain moments, and a bit sacrilegious to say, but I would also argue that it has a better ending than the original story. The original story... What's that?
So the ending is great.
Yeah.
It's like, if you know, you know, but it's, like, almost comically devastating, but, like, just, it hits that sweet spot where I'm like, no fucking way.
Yeah. No, I feel like it's done super well. It's an old movie, so I guess spoilers are okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so in the book, or the short story, because it's a short story, they just kind of drive off, and it's left ambiguous. Like, maybe the mist has, like, taken over the whole world, and it's, like, a moot point. Which is a devastating ending. But in the movie, they keep driving, and there's just mist and mist and mist everywhere, and they run out of gas. So then they have 4 bullets in a gun and 5 people in a car. And so one person has to shoot all of them. And the main character does that, and one of the people he shoots is his son. And then he's, like, crying, and he goes out, and he's like, just come and kill me already. And then the mist starts to clear, and, like, tanks come in. And that is just, like, I don't think I've ever, like, experienced an ending that's more just like, oh, you've got to be fucking kidding me.
It's devastating.
It is devastating. It's like Romeo and Juliet levels devastating, where, like, if Romeo had waited, like, 2 more seconds, he would have realized that Juliet wasn't dead. Except this one isn't a boring story. Sorry, Willie Shakespeare.
Hope he's not listening.
Yeah, I hope not. I know he's a big fan of yours.
Yeah.
But yeah, The Mist is... I wouldn't say it's, like, the most well-known Stephen King movie. Obviously, that goes to, like, The Shining and It now. But for what it is, and for what it sets out to be, I think it does what it does excellently. The effects are great. There's lots of practical effects mixed in with some, early 2000s CGI, but, I can excuse that because the creature designs are so good. I really love this movie.
I mean, shout out to that, the creature that takes the guy in the army when he's like exiled from the store. I think that design is super terrifying for some reason. Isn't it like a crab sort of creature?
Oh yeah, like with the claws.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I mean, pretty much all the designs are nightmarish, but again, it's the cool thing about them is that like they're animals. Like it's not something we can. It's not like an alien species that are like so above us. It's just like they're animals. They're hungry. They're doing what they do.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I don't always. You're so into like the cosmic horror stuff. I don't always find myself fully ingratiated to it. I think what really helped me feel accustomed to this one was that it is very focused on the human element. Like, I'd say it's more about the people than the creatures. It's not about. It's like you're viewing the creatures from the same point of view the people are. And that really helps you just place yourself in trying to wrap your head around the insane things going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
characters react very realistically to the situation they're in, honestly. Like, even if it's, like, kind of cheesy, hammed-up acting, and, there's some questionable dialogue every once in a while, it still feels sincere, and it really takes itself seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also, like, Stephen King does sometimes have dialogue that's like that. But it's not like a negative, it's just part of his style. And I feel like in that sense, the movie adapted that really well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it does just feel. You said yourself, there's just a certain twinge that makes things Stephen Kingy, and this thing just had all the hallmarks, that very that je ne sais quoi. That's just like, oh, it's a Stephen King thing. Yep.
I wonder
Yeah.
if, like, The Walking Dead, whoever did the casting for that must have really liked this movie, because there's, like, 3 actors in this who are in The Walking Dead.
I didn't even realize.
There's,
Huh.
it's Laurie Holden, Jeffrey DeMunn, and Melissa McBride.
Hmm.
They are all pretty major characters from at least the first couple seasons of that show.
I'm having a hard time. It's
Huh.
that a lot of that show is a blur to me.
Yeah. I will say, apparently they made a TV series of The Mist, or they attempted to.
Mhm.
I heard
Except
about that.
this time the mist was like haunting them and like giving them visions of like their dead relatives. It's like, come the fuck on.
That's so lame. That is
Like
so lame.
if you're gonna take a story, like, you can do a story like that, but don't like call it the mist. Don't like tie in Stephen King to that. Um Especially because cosmic horror is such an underrepresented genre. Like we could have had like a really really good cosmic horror show with like great effects, and they just went with like the regular psychological horror, which again is fine, but like you're talking about the mist here. You got to utilize that, or what's the fucking point? Just make something original.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm glad you showed us this one. This was like one of my young nemesis movies. Like this and Green Inferno were marketed to me around the time where scary movies could be marketed to me, but I wasn't brave enough to go see them. So I put up this veneer of like, fucking the mist won't get me. I'd fucking kick the shit out of the mist. I don't know what you fucking. So I'm happy I finally saw it, and that's actually, yeah, pretty terrific.
Yeah, I'm glad you gentlemen liked it. And speaking of liking things, I would like to pass the torch, or the baton rather, to Dev.
That's a very smooth segue there. Okay. Time to take over. Speaking of things we like, I'm finally going to toast something today. Now, I do want to make a little bit of a clarification before I go into this. On a previous episode of this podcast, a couple of episodes ago, I said that I found the game that is probably going to end up being my game of the year, and that was Hi-Fi Rush. And I want to be very clear, that is still the case. It is still my favorite game of this year. However, this game is a very close second, and it is the one that I am almost 100% certain is going to win Game of the Year at the Game Awards.
Mm.
And that is
the Peppa Pig game.
the Peppa Pig game. Fuck yeah, Daddy Pig, first person POV, robbing people in London, England. It is the most immersive experience I've ever had.
When I think of video game moments that made me cry. I think of Red Dead Redemption 2 when he says we're only ghosts, and I think of I think of when Peppa Pig splashes in a puddle with the Queen of England. Oh wait, it'll be the last fun she ever has. And her.
That might hit me more if I would actually believe you've ever played Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, no, I don't play that fucking shit.
Anyway, this toast goes to The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. This game has held my near constant attention for the last, 2 weeks, and it is becoming a problem. If I am not working, I am playing Zelda.
You're playing a lot of Minecraft when we hop on Discord, but I know both games involve building, so maybe I'm just confused.
Well, sure, but also, sometimes in Minecraft, I'll just, hide in a corner and start playing Zelda.
What the fuck?
Dav, I bought Minecraft so we could play together!
We're still playing, I made the room, that certain type of room that you, associate with me.
Oh, yeah.
The audience at home isn't getting context for that.
No,
Yeah,
they're not getting context for that. But yeah, Tears of the King. Oh my god, Tears of the Kingdom. This is such a shock for me because I really liked Breath of the Wild, but there was a lot about it that I really didn't like, and it made it kind of difficult to there was really no way with Breath of the Wild that I could just sit down and play through the whole thing constantly like I'm doing with this, because there were just some things that were kind of sluggish. There was the story was not really capturing me that much. I mean, it kind of at the time was pretty much free roam open world perfected, and that's really what I respected it and loved it for. But as far as actually the story and the characters, well, the characters are pretty good, but as far as the story goes, it was it was leaving a lot to be desired. And this one, I think, does a significantly better job, in addition to just kind of taking everything that I did have an issue with in Breath of the Wild and fixing it, basically. If not just turning it into a really great mechanic. And so I've just been completely engrossed in this. The main gimmick mechanic being sort of the building is really fun, and has just I don't know if you guys have seen the basic hover bike design, but that thing just makes it so easy to go wherever you want as fast as you want, and
Literally,
I really love that.
The only thing I have seen about this game is people building giant penis monsters and crucifying corpses.
That is a big part of it, I think. Yeah. The Koroks are really fun to torture.
Didn't you say you tied one to a hovercraft and drowned it?
I tied it to a hovercraft with a rocket attached, and then I pointed it straight down into a river and shot it down to the bottom of the river. And it was screaming. It was I don't like this.
Are Koroks enemies, or are they your friends?
No, they're your friends.
They're your well. It's because I don't know. Did you ever play Breath of the Wild with finding the Korok seeds in the world?
I didn't make it very.
Tommy didn't play Breath of the Wild.
I tried it.
Oh, you did?
Tried. Remember, I was texting you. I was asking you for help. And you were I don't remember how this works. And I'm well, I don't know how to get out of here. I was just really stuck on the because I do not do open world a lot, but I was okay, everyone loves Breath of the Wild. I'll give it a try. I was stuck on the overworld. And I just remember I tried it in the airport. And so I was all right, airport, no time like now. And I'm texting Will, Will, how do the map markers work? And you were giving me the Will answer of I don't remember. I just don't think I used them that much. I'm oh,
I didn't use the map markers that much.
I'm largely exaggerating. But I'm all right. I don't. So I just yeah, no, that's my experience with Breath of the Wild. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt.
Well, I mean, just to briefly give you an idea, the Korok seeds is basically just scattered around the map. There's over 1,000. I think in this one there are over 1,000 of them. And it's just oh, there's a rock out of place. If I lift the rock, there's a Korok. It's gonna give me a Korok seed. And if you get enough Korok seeds, you can upgrade your inventory space, basically.
That's fun.
And they're in this game too, but instead of just being hidden, some of them are out in the open, and they need to be basically reunited with their friend. So you need to probably put them on a vehicle and then take them to wherever their friend is, like throwing up a smoke signal, and that's how you get the seeds from them. But that has opened up the floodgates to torturing the shit out of them too. So, but anyway, that's sort of the building mechanic has allowed for torture, but it also allows for like a lot of quality of life changes. You know, you can do a lot of cheesing, I guess, in puzzles and shrines. Like there was a shrine I came upon that was like, do this. It was like a puzzle basically to light some things on fire or something to open a door, and I was able to just string a shitload of panels together to make a bridge that went over the top of the wall and just run over the top of it. And it feels great because it's like, I don't feel like I'm cheating. I feel like this is just a solution. And like, that is such a great feeling because I'm not really great at just solving game puzzles the way they're intended. I like to think out of the box, and this game really just lets you do that and just go wild with it. And that, I think, is just the most... Like that's really the thing that keeps me coming back all the time, is like I don't feel like I'm ever going to come back and get stuck on something or feel like I'm really having a bad time trying to figure something out. I feel like I'm always coming back to doing just anything productive, and that's just great.
Sounds super cool. I wonder if I would get along with this one better, because like it sounds to me like instead of wandering through fields, there's always shit you can try, I guess. Like there's not really, I don't want to say there's no wrong answers, but it's like it'll always lead to a result. Just trying something out.
Yeah. The first game kind of had that, but it was more like anywhere you went, there's a Korok seed, and after you got enough Korok seeds and kind of expanded your inventory, it was sort of like de-incentivizing exploration of any type. Because, like, okay, why am I trudging through this field if I'm only going to find more Korok seeds?
Mm-hmm.
But this one, the main thing that circumvents that is the fact that the towers now, instead of just climbing them to the top and activating them, like they have a brand new look, which I really love. I think it's very underrated and people aren't talking about it enough. Like with the spotlights, it just creates this really ominous feeling. But when you actually unlock them, you can essentially just use them as rockets that shoot you to the top of the skybox, and you can just glide anywhere in the world.
Hilarious.
And that is like how you get to these sky islands, which I am going to admit right now are probably my biggest disappointment with this game. The sky islands were kind of, I mean, when this game was first shown, the sky islands were the first thing you saw. It was just that shot of Link falling through the sky and like falling past the sky islands. Beyond the tutorial sky island, there aren't a whole lot of them, and they don't do a whole lot for you. There's not really much to see there. Like there are, Korok seeds, there are shrines. There's still stuff to do. They're just very, I don't know, sparse, and they feel like they're just kind of taking up space. It's I've not felt much of a motivation to go back to those too much.
That's a bummer, yeah, because it did seem like that was like the big draw, and shit in the sky can be the coolest thing in the world, but it seems like we haven't mastered that yet.
It's really great views when you're up there, but they're just so separate, and it feels like every single island is kind of only made for one single thing. Like this island is a shrine, and this island is, one of those Zonai vendors. It's very, it feels kind of underdeveloped, unfortunately.
Well, I'm glad it came together ultimately, because I know in the past on air, I've come off as very cranky about this, because it was the period at the end of every Nintendo showcase, and I was getting sick of seeing it. But like, and I also I was also just in the camp of like, there's no way it can live up to your guys' expectations. Like, I was like, where could it possibly go from what you say Breath of the Wild is? But honestly, every time I hear about someone playing it, I'm like, you know what? I don't know if this is necessarily for me. Maybe I'll try it, but like, I'm very vicariously happy hearing like, that's not a bummer, because I was like half convinced, like, there's no way they won't mess this up. There's like just way too much pressure. So I'm happy it's like living up, and probably no small part of that inflection made on me are that it's a net positive that people are thirst posting Purah now.
Yeah. Well, there probably would have been more if Age of Calamity did better, because her design in that was very similar.
Well, that one had Impa,
Yeah,
who had
this-
all her own deal going on.
Yeah, that one had Impa, and then Purah, and then Robbie, I guess, was a thirst trap if you were into the Tumblr sexy man type, but
A lot of people want to fuck the fish.
Yeah, you're one of them.
Hey.
So, I mean, this fucking, it isn't, you know, like what you were saying with the expectations, my expectations were pretty high, if not just for the fact that they announced this game, like, I think 4 years ago now. I think it was E3 2019 when they first announced this, and then it was just radio silence until, like, last year when it started taking up every direct.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, like, I still think that this game, for 6 years of waiting and 4 years after its initial announcement, probably should have tried to do more than it does. Like, it's a big expansion, but that is such a long wait between games. Like, Super Mario Odyssey 2 is not going to meet my expectations no matter what at this point.
You feel
It
that's
has been
like
too fucking long.
that's the reality of what I was portending with Tears of the Kingdom. You think is going to apply to Odyssey 2?
Absolutely, because we don't even have it. We don't know if they're even making it.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's insane. It is insane that we don't have anything about an Odyssey sequel right now. But this coming out was an inevitability, I think. Breath of the Wild was just too big to not make a follow-up, and maybe that kind of caught them off guard, and maybe that's why it took so long to develop. But I am glad that they took Breath of the Wild, which was already a great but far from perfect game, and brought it closer to perfection. I hope to God that they never make another Zelda game like this.
Yeah.
I really, really want them to return to, like, Wind Waker, Skyward Sword, that style of Zelda games, because as much as I love this is lightning in a bottle, and they are going to fuck it up if they keep trying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's time to move on to another pasture. Because that is the other thing with, like, how AAA has become a genre. And now it's like, well, what else are we going to do? Of course, this is the only thing we're going to do now. And now we have, like, two kinds of game, basically.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about the PlayStation Showcase later. There's a game in that looks absolutely just like Tears of the Kingdom in Unreal Engine 5.
Ugh. Sony, hire this man.
Yeah. It looks fucking awful, and that it speaks to Breath of the Wild's influence for sure. God, Nintendo, please do not take the... They already said that, I think Aonuma probably was the one who said this, but they said that Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom is what they are taking example from and how they are moving forward with the series, and that is fucking devastating for me to hear. I don't care how much this game is, like, again, this game is amazing. I love this game. I am going to be playing it forever. I don't want more of these. I straight up don't. It's going to get old. The fact that the biggest expansion to this game is a giant underground cavern, which, by the way, they have not advertised at all.
Oh.
The depths is just the size of Hyrule, but it's completely underground. That place is so fun to explore. Like, way more fun than the Sky Islands, unfortunately. But again, outside of that, you still have, like, the combat. Breath of the Wild's combat I hated, and this one has the same combat, and it still sucks. The story is still told, and this is maybe my biggest problem even beyond the Sky Islands, is, Will, did you ever play Breath of the Wild?
Yeah.
Okay, so you remember how you kind of had to, like, to see the story, you had to go to different locations and, like, look back on the memories?
Yeah.
They do that here, and it does not work at all.
Like, how so?
Because in Breath of the Wild, when you were looking back on the memories, you would go to the locations where those memories happened, and then it kind of made sense to kind of see them out of order. This one is a story that is told beginning to end in order, or like it has an order to it. Like every single memory leads directly into the next, but it is completely random which one you're going to see. So like I watched one that was like one of the later ones, and it completely spoiled the entire thing for me. Because I just kept on, I would go back and see an earlier one, and I'm like, okay, well, I know exactly where this is going because I already watched the last one.
Oh, weird.
It's a real shame. And you know, I am spouting off like problems I have about this, but the reason being is like Breath of the Wild had a lot going for it, and it's still here. The Switch is struggling to run this. They really need to make a new console. My God. But this game is so fucking good. And the new mechanics, the recall and all that stuff is a lot more interesting and fun than like the bomb and the magnet and the build an ice block in water. But I think that this game is going to age significantly better than Breath of the Wild. Like I said, I'm going to be playing this for a long time. It is amazing. It is almost certainly going to be Game of the Year, if not just because it's one of the only good launches this year with literally 0 bugs that I have found.
I was just thinking, like, I've played nothing but weird shit all year. Because all the AAA stuff just, does not look like this is the first, big release I've been all that interested in.
This year has been fucking terrible for AAA games that aren't remakes or sequels.
Yeah.
And even then, some of them have been really bad. So, you know, not much competition, but it's Zelda, so even if there was competition, it was still going to win.
Yeah.
But, excitedly looking forward to the Game Awards because I think there is going to be a pretty good lineup. But yeah. I think I just know what the winner's going to be.
I wouldn't doubt it because I don't know there's not an Elden Ring looking to knock it off its horse anytime soon unless something surprising gets announced. Knock on wood.
I think if we're going for the 6, it's going to be Tears of the Kingdom, Spider-Man 2, Starfield. Unfortunately, I don't think. Yeah, RE4 remake.
Dead Space.
Oh, I don't think Dead Space is going to be there, unfortunately.
Really?
I think it's just not a big enough game, which really it says a lot about the Game of the Year. We say it every year, but Game of the Year is like a genre.
Yeah, true. Spider-Man 2 is supposed to be this year?
Oh yeah, that's coming out in fall.
Oh, huh. We've been quiet about that for so long. Where's the fucking Wolverine game, for that matter?
That one, we never even got gameplay on. I don't see that coming out till 25.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right.
It better be rated M, or I'm not going to be really all that into it.
Yeah, I think they jumped the gun announcing that. Bit of a... I don't know. Maybe they'll... We should probably have a Direct this summer. Maybe they'll release with, I don't know, Prime 4 finally. He's going to fucking burst in. I don't know.
Oh, man, if they were to drop Prime 4 this year... That would, God, that's rough to even think about, because, that would be a Game of the Year contender, absolutely.
I think they were testing the waters a bit with the Prime Remaster, which I think did really well for itself.
Oh, it did, absolutely. Well, it's just a really good game, and it's a really good remaster of a really good game.
I wonder if they're just, they're ready, I don't know. We usually get a June Direct, don't we?
We do, because usually it's when E3 is supposed to be, but,
right.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. Alright, well, we'll see how it goes. You know where my hopes are. My Game of the Year would be a Donkey Kong if we get one.
Is it Pizza Tower, if not?
Right now... It's probably Octopath Traveler 2 at the moment.
Damn.
But I think Street Fighter 6 and Pikmin 4 are going to shake up that paradigm a bit.
Well, yeah.
Pikmin 4, I love Pikmin. They've been taking their time with this one. I think it'll be a very quietly solid release.
I respect it for, they announce it and then it comes out in a reasonable time frame. Nintendo has not been doing that lately, so...
Yeah.
Anyway, Game of the Year lineup. Okay, RE4 Remake, Tears of the Kingdom, Hogwarts Legacy,
Ugh, I hate
maybe
that you're
Jedi
right.
Survivor.
I hate that you're right about Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 16.
Mm-hmm.
If it's, assuming it's not dog ass when it comes out. And I don't know, what are we thinking for number 6? It's not going to be Forspoken. Oh, you know what it's probably going to be? Armored Core 6. They made such a big deal out of that announcement at the last Game Awards.
Well, if we're getting Hogwarts Legacy, we might as well throw Gollum up there, make it a fucking book nerd Game Awards.
I don't think Gollum's going to be... Wait, has Gollum come out already?
It's supposed... I think this month.
God, I feel like that launch is going to go really bad.
I haven't heard good things. The whispers are not boding well.
In any case, Hi-Fi Rush is not going to be up for Game of the Year, and that is a real fucking shame, because that game is perfect. Alright. Enough ranting about a fantastic game. I'm going to pass it off to you, Sherman.
I think this is our longest episode, and it's going to get longer, because I have one more top and, some juicy news, but fuck it, we
have a lot of news.
It was the first 2 weeks, I was like, man, fucking nothing's happening. Then,
everything kind of hit.
Sony dropped the big ones. So.
But the first one last top for the night. I am lightly toasting a TV show that started recently, but first I'm going to roast the format you watch it on, because as we record this, we are one day in the era PH, post HBO Max, and now we are in simply the era of Max. And the most succinct description of Max I have is that you go into Max and you think to yourself, well, I'll give the new Clone High season a chance. Type in Clone High. There's Clone High, the old show, and you click it and you're like, wait, only one season? It's the old season, but that can't be right. And Clone High the new season are two different shows with identical titles on Max.
Oh, that's annoying as fuck.
I was like, because I knew it was a launch day release. I was like, no, this can't be right. And then I go back and I'm like, oh, you can watch Clone High or you can watch Clone High, and you can play.
They made that an entirely new app, didn't they?
Yes. So my Roku transferred over. Luckily, I was pretty fortunate. I think on your phone you have to download a new app.
That is fucking financial suicide.
I know. Most people aren't gonna bother. They're like, oh, weird, my HBO's not working, and then forget it.
Then they look up HBO and they're like, oh, nothing else comes up.
It's fucking.
There's no other HBO.
No more HBO.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, I gave a try to Clone High, not to be mistaken with Clone High. And you know what? Did it beat the bad reboot allegations? I'd say yes. It's still got some really rough edges. I'm lightly toasting it because it's a lot better than the trailers made it look. The trailers were a little bit disastrous, we talked about that. There were some rough edges there. There's still some things I hope they work out, but ultimately it turned out a lot better than I think I expected. So have you guys seen Clone High, the first season?
I've seen clips of it.
Yeah, I've seen clips of JFK.
The best character. So you know how season 1 ends with all of them freezing?
I did not know that.
Season 1, so they're clones. So season 1 ends with the professor who cloned them cryogenically freezing them. And so they're lifting off saying real time passed, 20 years have passed, and they're being thawed out. Now, to ingratiate yourself with this new season, here's the biggest hurdle that I had, and that I think a lot of people will. Episode 1, gentlemen, is unfortunately a cancel culture episode. If I never hear a character say the words, uh-oh, I'll get canceled again, it will be too fucking soon. I just don't think anyone has anything interesting to say about it. I think it's a stupid thing to talk about.
On either side.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But they do, to their credit, they do the best they could in that because the characters have been frozen for 20 years, Abe is saying things that you could say 20 years ago that you wouldn't today. I think my favorite exchange, he meets Christopher Columbus, who's one of the new characters, and Abe's like, "Oh, you guys need to be really politically correct, huh?" And he goes, "Well, we don't really use that term anymore." And Abe goes, "Yeah, it's pretty retired. Yes, thank you, Abe."
Okay, that is pretty funny.
So, and then like Abe later says like, "Oh, I didn't mean to say something gay," and people get mad at him. And he doubles down like, "Well, by gay I just meant the worst possible thing." Like, so he gets like, it's the, and Abe, what's effective is that Abe is an everyman character who just has to learn that he has to change and apologize. It's really funny that people very readily accept JFK because he's just so fucking stupid that they interpret everything he says as just being very sex positive. So they're very willingly accepting of him, whereas Abe, because he has more of this wherewithal, does have to take more accountability up for his actions. The new characters, I think, are still a bit of an issue. It introduces Harriet Tubman, Frida Kahlo, Confucius, and Christopher Columbus to the main cast. And we all saw those designs, and I think everyone shared the reaction of like, it's not remotely the same design pathos that the old clones followed. They look really out of place. Except for Columbus, I think works well as a Columbus design. Like, he looks like he would belong in the old show fine. And I think to that point, he's the character that works best because this version of Columbus is like a repressed incel.
I mean, makes sense.
Yeah. He gets in a fucking flame war because he's offended about jokes about Italian.
Oh, just like you.
Yeah, just like me. He's just like me for real. But like you've got but they also explained that the new clones weren't like part of the old cast. The professor made a new clone high while the old ones were frozen. So that's why they seem to have been cultivated so differently. Why they're so like outwardly 2022. And Confucius, I think, is gonna grow on me a little. He's the social media influencer, which I think is kind of a funny gag for Confucius. But he's all about like, they're very like, when he's giving Abe advice about getting canceled, he's like, times like this, it's best to humbly apologize with an overproduced video. Like shit like that.
I mean, as long as he's like mocking influencers, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Then there's Frida and Harriet Tubman, I think, are where I really want to see the show grow. They are the class president and vice president. Everyone loves them. I think it's largely because what happens is Cleopatra is barely in the show anymore because like the idea of who's popular in high school today is so different from like 2003. So Cleopatra was like the queen bee character and everyone loved her, and now no one really cares because like no one cares about that kind of person anymore, I feel. You know what I mean? Now it's like the cool skater girl and the artsy girl, like Frida Kahlo and Harriet Tubman.
Yeah, Tommy, teaching a high school, that is not accurate at all.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah.
That surprises me. That's not what I've noticed. That's interesting to me. I guess it's not what I've noticed. I don't know. Well, anyway, where was? I guess Frida and Harriet, I think, need a little more oomph and a little more personality because they're largely expositionary characters. Just exposing like what's changed over 20 years and ingratiating Joan of Arc to all of this. So I'm hoping they kind of grow out of their shells a bit. There's jokes that feel lifted right out of the old series. I was happy to see George Washington Carver back. He's Say What?
Hell yeah.
Even though Gandhi is still frozen, as they've revealed.
Gee, I wonder why.
Do you know why?
Yeah, because didn't like people get really pissed off?
People hunger striked the show in India.
Jesus.
Insanity. Well, what they wanted, I think one of their ideas was to reveal that Gandhi is actually a clone of Gary Coleman.
Why didn't they just do that?
I don't know. I think it was maybe just $1 short and a day too late. I don't know. but then there's jokes that just feel like it's clearly new writers. Like there's a lot of physical humor that I just like. There was a lot of impossible physical humor in the old show, like a gag where Abe tears his cheek open with a hybrid knife fork gadget. But now it's shit like JFK saying, "You can take a seat on my ass," and his whole waist like rotating in an impossible way to expose his ass to the table. Like, you know what I'm like? People are doing weird cartoon shit like that, which of course it's always been a cartoon. They've always been doing impossible shit, but they seem to love like the characters. Like you've seen the clip in the trailer where Cleopatra like lights herself on fire and puts a saw to her head and like walks away from it. There was like physical violence, but it never felt like quite that exaggerated. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So they seem to really like physical humor more than like the old Clone High being a bit more grounded. And I say as grounded as a show about cartoon clones can be, Yeah, I think it's off to a pretty good start. I hope it's not like a modern topical thing of the week, even though, the old one was a satire. I just feel more like every show wants to be like, and then we'll tackle TikTok, and then we'll tackle cancel culture, and then we'll tackle, I don't know, what else is big these days with the
Fortnite.
Fortnite, yeah. Oh, there's so gonna be a Fortnite episode. And then, like, I don't know, Abe thinks it's like a Civil War reenactment. That's the thing. Punch it up.
Jesus.
Yeah, there we go. It's off to an okay start. It was not, because the trailers made it look rough. I think I'm mostly just pleasantly surprised as opposed to, like, fully into it. But it has its moments. I think I'm gonna keep watching. All right. News time?
Let's do it.
Sure.
All right.
Let's get into the long news.
Got a lot to discuss here. Okay, all right. Where were we? Here we go. The WGA Writers Strike is officially in motion, gentlemen.
Good.
Yeah, and sorry.
I was just I drive by the Walt Disney Studios every day, and I see them striking there, and I make sure to honk at them. They're doing good.
God bless you. And I think sounds like SAG and maybe DGA want to be in solidarity, so that would be really good as well. This could,
it's always good when something like this happens because it reveals who like the worst people are when they're actively working against them.
Right, exactly, yeah. And
Jimmy Kimmel, wasn't he kind of in hot water for that?
I haven't heard specifically about him. But I'm sure it sounds like something he would be Wait, yes, I think you're right. No, wait, I'm thinking of Ken Jennings. He was kinda he still wanted to do Jeopardy.
Jeopardy, yeah.
Yeah. It's uplifting to hear about people who have a good head on their shoulders, like Seth MacFarlane packing up all of Family Guy and taking it with him. Good, rare Seth MacFarlane W.
Yeah.
From him especially, because he's half the voices on that fucking show, so he's like, see ya. I like Jay Leno dropping off donuts for everyone, because he's been engulfed in flame shortly ago.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, good for him. Stay strong, strikers. A lot of people who I follow on like podcasts and stuff are actively saying that they're on the picket line and are I'm seeing people on the news. I'm like, oh, I listened to their comedy improv shit, and they're just like fighting for their fucking livelihood to not be taken over by a bunch of apocalyptic computers. And if all three of those unions and maybe more come together, then maybe we'll see a shift to this like nightmarish reality we're in, where every time I open Twitter, someone thinks they're really fucking smart for generating Wes Anderson directed Chuck E. Cheese commercials.
Fucking hate those. They call them like the... What was the Lord of the Rings one called?
Wes Anderson,
obnoxious name.
Oh, it was like a happy fellowship or something.
Oh, the whimsical
fellowship. Give me a fucking break.
They're all named like that, and it's so obnoxious because he doesn't name his movies like that.
No, he doesn't. We just watched Grand Budapest Hotel. Phenomenal fucking movie. It's not called the Whimsical Hotel or something. Golly. So we don't necessarily have to litigate all of these, but I just really liked how I phrased this. Hwoarang is in Tekken 8, Sylvie is in King of Fighters, and isn't tournament legal, and Nick Cage is in Dead by Daylight.
Hell yeah.
Is Michi.
Hell fucking yeah.
Yeah, it's just Nick Cage as himself. Like I said, I think that's the first just person who's a real person in that game.
He's just wearing like
I think that's hilarious.
he's wearing like a red overshirt, and he's just got his scruff. Like, all right, I'm here.
Like Ash is in that, but it's not Bruce Campbell as Ash.
Isn't like Ghostface there too?
Well,
Yeah.
probably. They have a lot of icons in that.
I think he recorded like all of his grunts and dialogue. Like he just did it all.
Hell yeah.
Fucking legend.
Fucking amazing.
Hwoarang looks great too. I never cared for Sylvie, and I can't believe people do.
She won me over a little bit with her moves, but she's not like pulling me back per se. Hwoarang is one of my favorite trailers I've ever seen. Because like viewers at home, Google Tekken 7 Hwoarang right now, and when you're looking at that, you're looking at one of my least favorite character designs ever. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. So he has an eye patch. And they regretted their design, that design so much that they got rid of his eye. His eye came back. He's fine now.
Didn't they do the same thing with the Feet Girl?
You're thinking of Street Fighter.
I mean, like, didn't she also like lose an eye patch?
I think she did. Yeah. Eye patches are very temporary in fighting games, it appears. But I guess if you can take a Hadouken that many times and walk it off, you can grow an eye again.
Yeah.
Hwoarang is back to Tekken 4 basics. He has his classic gi. It was beautiful. I loved it.
And he has an Akira bike slide intro.
Yes. Oh man, he looks cool. It's the most interested. I loved him in his classic days. Then they wanted to make him more and more edgy anime rival to the point that he's an eyesore in Tekken 7, and he's back. He's back. I loved it. We had the Five Nights at Freddy's teaser.
Yeah, certainly was a teaser.
Is it weird that I don't think it looks like horrible?
No, I
mean, it
also
looks
think
like
it looks okay.
Yeah, kind of middle of the road Blumhouse. I think if it's PG-13, it's going to be bad. If it's R, I'm optimistic.
And here's the concern is that I think they'd want to push it PG-13 because kids love FNAF.
It is huge with kids. I mean, I think they would be out of their minds to make it R.
I think it's gonna
Okay,
be
so then I think it is going to be bad.
I could also see them maybe doing a cut of both. Like if there could be a Deadpool cut where he's like, and I'm not gonna swear in this one. I guess I don't know. It's a big enough franchise.
It could be like a very hard PG-13, but their core audience is children, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, if it's successful enough, we'll maybe get that Poppy Playtime movie we always needed. Overwatch 2 cancels its story mode.
Hilarious.
Overwatch 2 cancels Overwatch 2.
Overwatch 2 could not beat the what the fuck allegations. Man, so to set up the narrative, they announce Overwatch 2 and say, we're doing this to have a story mode. Then they remove Overwatch 1 to say, all you'll need is Overwatch 2, plus it'll have that story mode, and now they're not doing that story mode.
Yep.
Man, what a bunch of fucking clown.
Blizzard being the worst game dev company and getting away with it, what else is new?
If there was a game award for worst developer, that's the only reason there's not an award for worst developers, because Blizzard would have some fuck up every single year.
Oh yeah, like the Razzies for video games.
Yeah.
The Blizzies.
The Blizzy. Well, that sounds like Glizzy, which I think is appropriate. Alright, big one. We finally got the first trailer for Mortal Kombat 1. Sorry, Will?
Cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. Mortal Kombat is like one of my favorite things ever. Mortal Kombat X is my favorite video game of all time, and Mortal Kombat 11 burned down my house and took the kids. So there's a very particular brand of exhaustion you get when that franchise is back in the spotlight, if you're in my position. And I guess the troubling thing is we saw no gameplay. And it raised a lot of questions that won't be answered until we see gameplay, I feel, which won't be till Summer Games Fest, evidently.
Which is going on now.
It is?
That's what the PlayStation Showcase was part of that.
Oh, I looked it up and it said the start date was like June 8th.
It's kind of an ongoing thing, but they kind of stretch it out to a few months.
I see. So I guess we'll get Mortal Kombat 1 gameplay any day now. I figure they'll give it another week or so. I don't know. We'll have something to talk about next month, I think.
Yeah.
You know, no small part of my ire with Mortal Kombat 11 is I think what they do with Liu Kang is some of the most head-ass writing in the world, and they seem to want to double down on it, and it doesn't impress me. You know, I'm impressed with, like, the scope. They seem to be very ambitious, but it's also like, oh, you see Scorpion and Sub-Zero, and it's some of their more boring designs that they've ever had.
I don't love, like, especially with, like, oh god, Mortal Kombat 9's Scorpion.
Yeah, that's like, fucking, if it was MK9 or Deception Sub-Zero.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking rules. And then we got, like, oh, they both have top knots now. Great.
And they're also both in the Lin Kuei?
They're at least friends. It looks like it looks like Liu Kang has made the action figures kiss and made them make up. I'm a little interested in, it's Kitana and Melina in a carriage together, where they've always been sworn enemies. And people have pointed out the way they're positioned in the carriage, it would suggest that Melina is the royalty and Kitana is her bodyguard.
That could be fun.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
I know that pretty much the only reason they revealed Melina so early is because her stands are fucking insane.
To get people to shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Honestly,
Melina's in the game, stop.
If I was Ed Boon, I think I'd just be like, Melina is never coming back. You guys think about what you did.
But that doesn't get you money.
That's true. But it would be also very funny.
Yeah, true. I'm a big freak who actually loves the later continuity characters like Cassie and Devora, and a timeline reset kind of suggests they're less likely to appear, so that's a bit of a bummer, but at the same time, I'm also like, if it's a reset, I can't have expectations. I just gotta take what's coming to me, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Like, after they reset the timeline the first with, like, MK9, they kind of, like, eased up on, like, the 3D era new characters.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they'll do that with this one, where there's, like, maybe two?
Yeah, I could see that.
Like,
sorry?
NRS MKX characters?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, Amazon Italy leaked some details. Evidently, you know, we know about assist characters. There's some muddied waters there. We'll probably see some more soon. Evidently, we're supposed to get Homelander, Omni-Man, and Peacemaker as guest fighters.
Which, honestly, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. But only if they're voiced by, like, I don't want a fucking Terminator situation again. If you're going to get those characters, you have to get them voiced by the people to play them.
I could see Anthony Starr and even J.K. Simmons coming on board. John Cena might be a bit of a harder sell.
Yeah.
They got Ronda Rousey.
John Cena's much bigger than Ronda Rousey, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, I guess, like, they're both wrestlers, right?
Yeah,
Ronda Rousey, I think, is MMA, isn't
she transitioned into wrestling, but I don't know if she's very well liked.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh my god, fucking Ronda Rousey is Sonya. Okay, what? Hey, Kano.
Yeah, I don't think she's gonna come back.
Fuck that. Oh, man.
I think it's absurd this game is, like, over 100 gigabytes confirmed already, though.
What the fuck is it?
Oh yeah, that is nuts.
Like, Tears of the Kingdom is 16 gigabytes. Who has an excuse anymore?
I know, yeah. It's Ed Boon making his developers watch actual deaths to make the most realistic possible fatalities and a bad
They're
crouching
like
animal.
leaving the video files in uncompressed, and that's what's taking up all the space.
It's because there needs to be 15 fucking possible lines of dialogue between Homelander and Sub-Zero. I don't know. Which, to be clear, I kind of love about Mortal Kombat, but it's also like, after hearing about crunch allegations at NRS, I'm like, maybe we don't need Scorpion to say a dozen fucking things to Rambo, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh well, we'll see how it shakes out. I'm also, cautiously optimistic. We'll see how it goes. And then we're recording this the day of a PlayStation Presents. Big one, yeah. So we got first look at Spider-Man 2. You guys are more the aficionados there. What's the vibe?
Looks pretty good.
Pretty great. I was really excited when they showed Queens, and the first shot they show of it is the football field that you start Ultimate Spider-Man in. And the fact that they confirmed the map is expanded to those areas is awesome. Symbiote looks great. I'm excited for Venom. I think that they are doing Kraven really dirty.
Ooh, tell me more.
His design is great, but the fact that he has a fucking army of people following and doing his bidding is really stupid. It is just an excuse to set up the like the gang camps they did in the first.
I was gonna say you need someone to beat up in the alleys,
true.
but I see where you're coming from. Yeah. Yeah, we got Kraven Moorhead.
Miles still looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
He's like my favorite to play as, so I'm looking forward to that too.
You think we'll get one that's like where we get like weird Spider-Verse shit someday?
I hope not.
They probably will at some point, but I don't want to see that in this universe at least.
Yeah, if you get hardware, tell us about this Project Q thing.
Oh. Project Q, notice how they didn't announce a price tag with that. It is just a PS5 controller split in half with a tablet in the middle, and it is only good for streaming. You can only stream your PS5 over a local Wi-Fi network, so you can't...
Oh, geez, so everything is like cloud games.
It's like cloud games, but it's like you have to be running it on your PS5, and I think you have to be on the same network as your PS5, so it's not something you can take on the go. It's basically just a tablet controller.
It's the ugliest fucking thing I've ever seen.
It is horrendous looking. It probably doesn't really have any onboard hardware that would make it even good for like jailbreaking. Unlike the Vita, which could play games natively and also could stream PS4 games remotely. So it is just a PS Vita, but far, far worse. And when the price tag comes out, it is probably going to be more expensive than the Vita was, and I'm going to laugh.
Here we go. Yeah. Well, fuck that. It's hard enough to find a fucking PS5 to this day, from what I hear, let alone.
It's a lot better now than it was.
That's good to know. Let's see. It's not really. I don't know if it's ready for an ugliest sin peripheral. Yeah, I don't know about that. Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted. Is that something?
I mean, we didn't really get anything of it, so.
It's the sequel to that other Help Wanted one, right? Where you kind of play as Freddy, sort of.
I think so.
I don't know. Five Nights at Freddy's has never been for me, and this one doesn't look any different. So.
Dragon's Dogma 2.
Good for Dragon's Dogma fans.
Yeah.
I thought it looked kind of ugly.
Yeah, it's never been my thing.
Marathon is getting rebooted, and it's like the worst possible implementation of that.
I don't know much about that. Tell me more.
So, you know Bungie, the developers of Halo, right?
Mm-hmm.
They made like Halo all the way up to Halo Reach, and they were like renowned for it, and then they made the Destiny games. Before that, they made Marathon, which were like these boomer shooters in the 90s on the computer. The last title, I think, came out in like 1996. And it's always been a cult classic and has been like freely available for a while. And they just announced they are rebooting it as an extraction shooter with games as a service, live service sort of thing. So basically pissed off everybody who's a fan of that series.
Oh, good. You love to see it. Metal Gear Solid Master Collection with a remake of Snake Eater.
If it doesn't have David Hayter, I don't care.
They said they have the original voices. I wonder if that just means they're using the same recordings.
Wouldn't mind that, because I mean, Metal Gear Solid 3 has great performances all around.
You've played that Snake Eater? You've played that one?
Yeah.
All right. That one always interested me. It seems to have some cool mechanics.
I have the collection on PS3, so it seems like this one has less titles than that.
It does, yeah.
Is 3 the only one being remade?
Yep.
Yeah, the other ones are just like straight ports.
Huh.
But I mean, 3 is widely regarded as like one of the best games of all time, so...
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, anything to give it to a new audience, I suppose. Foam Stars.
Fucking PlayStation
Splatoon 4!
The AI-generated character designs.
Oh yeah, I was like, this looks like Final Fantasy, but like ass specifically.
Don't do Final Fantasy like that.
Oh, okay. Plucky Squire looks cool.
It does. I actually wishlisted that one because that's got like some Link Between Worlds vibes. That looks really good.
Yeah, and it's Devolver, so it's like the same folks as Hades.
No.
Oh.
Hades is Super Giant. They're working on Hades 2.
Oh, I don't know why I got those confused. Whoopsie.
God damn it, Sherm.
Sorry. Phantom Blade Zero. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
The combat for that looks really good, but it's apparently a series in China that's coming to the West for the first time.
I'll have to give that a look. I didn't pay much mind to it. I'm just scrolling through a list right now. So... I just found like the first listicle I could of like everything announced at PlayStation, and it's formatted like a stream of comments. Like it's recorded people cutting in. So we got like, oh my god, Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. Hey, cool. According to the report, the MGS3 remake will be multi-platform across PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Then like a gap of a few minutes. Look, this is not the best place to share the news, but Tina Turner's died.
Yeah.
Which is very, like, unfortunate to be fair, but...
Toast and roast curse, where someone dies every time we record. Oh, knock on wood, I don't like that. Because last time I learned Jerry Springer died on air. And, what's this? Lords of the Fallen. I almost thought this was an Oddworld game.
I don't really remember that one.
Yeah.
Pragmata? Did we see that, or are people just speculating right now?
What is it called?
Pragmata?
It rings a bell, but I can't remember.
Don't remember that.
I think it's people speculating on what might show up. This is a weird format to do a recap article with. I should have found it better.
I mean, are there any other games on the showcase that any of us are like super passionate about?
I do want to point out how horrible the Alan Wake 2 launch is going.
What's the tea there?
It is being released digital only, and since it's being published by Epic Games, it is going to be an Epic Games Store exclusive on PC.
Oh.
That is a game people have been looking forward to for many years, and they are already fucking it up, so...
Sucks. Street Fighter 6 got a story trailer I've talked about. It's starting to concern me, like... There's a lot of, like, original characters that are only in the story mode, and that kind of... Like, it's starting to feel more and more like the story and the actual competitive fighting are just, like, two different things. I don't know how I feel about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's
I still think the
whole
player character looks really out of place.
yeah, that's kind of the thing. But then there's your rival character and a couple bosses who seem to only be in the story mode. Like they're not playable fighters. And that's something that always kind of rustles my jimmies. Like just put all of this into a really good roster of fighters. That's like my big reservation at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, here's a better article. Fair Game $, Helldivers 2, Immortals of Avium. Should I slow down?
I'm just like prating off what I thought they looked like. The
Sword,
first one looked really bad.
Sword of the Sea, Neva, the Talus Principle 2. Final Fantasy 16. Have any of us has that been on our radar?
No.
I'm cautiously optimistic about it because isn't that one going to be M-rated?
I think so.
That could be interesting.
I'll maybe give it a rental. I like character action stuff, but I wish it looked more like a Final Fantasy and not a head-ass God of War, whatever.
Yeah.
Aesthetically. Tower of Fantasy. Marathon, Destiny 2, Gran Turismo, Spider-Man. And then they ended on Spider-Man. Okay, alright.
There's also Assassin's Creed Mirage, which could be a return to form, but I don't have enough faith in Ubisoft to do that.
It doesn't sound like a lost cause to me. I don't know what I ever expect from PlayStation events. Sometimes there's something weird, but I was kind of in the back of my head like maybe new Twisted Metal to go with the show. Maybe the new Spyro they're definitely working on at the moment. I don't know, but nothing huge for me this year personally. But except the image of the Project Q is still just fucking hilarious.
That's so stupid.
Oh.
This showcase had so much expectations for it. Like people were let down because they thought it was going to be like, oh, this is going to be a Bloodborne PC port announcement.
Well, there was this insane
Gravity Rush 3.
There's this insane list that was like a supposed leak of like every IP you've been waiting for is coming back this presentation.
I mean, I was just like hoping for Persona 3 remake news, and I didn't get that.
Yeah. I mean, I think Atlas is going to announce that themselves. I don't really expect to see that in one of these.
That's the thing. I don't know. Like, I'm like, why is Street Fighter necessarily at the PlayStation event when it's not like a Sony property? And I'm like, Persona, that could be at a Nintendo or at a PlayStation event, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm kind of sick of seeing Street Fighter in like every showcase lately.
Yeah, I don't get why it's so in bed with PlayStation. As far as I think it's coming out for Xbox too.
Yeah, I think it's multi-platform.
Yeah, and like Steam as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Windows, PS4, PS5, Xbox Series X, and Series X. So I don't know why it's like so. It's been at like every PlayStation presentation as far back as I can recall.
The only thing I was kind of let down about that I really thought was going to be there was the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Oh yeah,
because they showed like a little bit of that at some point last year, but maybe they're waiting until Final Fantasy 16 comes out.
So they can like focus on one at a time.
Probably. It's just it's a little eerie how little we've really seen of that when it's supposed to come out this year.
It is?
Yeah, it's supposed to come out in winter.
Big gamer moment. Fucking shit. Well. And is this like a full installment, or is this like another expansion?
It's like part 2 of the Final Fantasy VII remake thing.
Ooh, so the story's
trilogy,
probably...
apparently.
Yeah, they're doing 3 of them.
Oh, okay. So this will probably take us like Golden Saucer, and then a little further. Probably up to Aerith dying, or wherever
I think so. Yeah.
I think it's going to end on Aerith dying,
or whatever they decide to change, because they've been
fucking with the timeline.
They do not have the balls to take out Aerith's death. That is too iconic.
What if they kill Tifa? I'd probably burn a building down.
I'd like, no, fuck this. That's not, no more.
Kate Sith, no!
No!
You were my infinite pet. Oh well. Is there anything else we wanted to cover? I think that's about the size of it.
Yeah, that's
Pretty much.
everything I wanted to cover.
All right, well, tomorrow's my last day at my job I don't really like anymore. I'm Tommy.
Tomorrow I have to go back to work at my job, and I'm Will.
Tomorrow, I think I'll inject just a little bit more insulin than usual, and I'll be thinking of you at home. And I'm Tav.
You gotta keep doing insulin so you can be my infinite pet.
I'm gonna fucking die right here, Tommy.